East Hampton Town Board, we are live.
Thank you, Jason. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Montauk for the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. Michael, if you could please read the roll call.
Councilmember Flight.
Present.
Deputy Supervisor Lease.
Present.
Councilmember Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Calder-Piedmont.
Present.
Supervisor Kathy Burr-Gonzalez.
Present. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Okay, so we're going to start today's meeting with public portion. We ask you to kindly keep your comments to 3 minutes. We have 6 work session topics today. First, bids with Jeannie Carrozza. Then John Tarbett is going to make a presentation on the new 173 Hampton subdivision and a request for reserve area use. That'll be followed by 3 of our department heads are going to be giving a presentation on the environment, their 2025 accomplishments and 2026 goals. Kim Shaw with Natural Resources, Scott Wilson for Land Acquisition and Management, and John Barley Dunn on our aquaculture program. That'll be followed by a presentation on the Nitrogen Smart Communities program with Melissa McCarran and Rachel Titus, followed by a presentation on the Georgica Pond at Route 27 Rest Stop Stormwater Abatement Project. We're going to get an update there with Melissa McCarran and Tom Schaefer from DB Engineers and Architects. And lastly, we're going to have an after-hearing discussion on Chapter 91, vehicles on Gin Beach. We just had that public hearing. That'll be followed by liaison reports, and we have a couple of resolutions. So first, we'll start with public portion. I see that no one has signed up. Is there anyone in the room that would like to address the board during public portion? Okay. Jason, is there anyone on the line?
Yes, we currently have 5 callers on the line. So let me unmute the first one.
Thank you.
Hello, caller 8764. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning, Town Board. 4 out of 5, anyway. This is David Buddha. Good morning. I am calling in to comment on the work session discussion topic described as being 173 Hampton subdivision request for reserve area use. I wish to voice my strong support for the position articulated by the Planning Department in Tina Lagreen's March 13 memo. This really should be a no-brainer. I'm frankly quite disappointed that any member of the Planning Board had supported the request. Application has been made to modify a 2011 minor subdivision approval and filed map that created 3 lots at 169, 171, and 173 Hampton Road in Amagansett. The Planning Board had required all 3 lots to share a single common driveway. That common driveway declaration was recorded on March 22nd, 2012. The Planning Board also required the applicant to convey to the town 2 subdivision map reserve areas along either side of the common driveway access and fronting on Hampton Road. Quite significantly, the Planning Board resolution states that the deed shall provide that the land so conveyed is to be restricted to use for park purposes only. The Town Board on February 2nd, 2012 accepted the deed to the vacant and wooded subdivision map reserve areas and explicitly stated that the purpose of such acquisition is the preservation of open space. The applicant seeks alienation of designated parkland without bothering to go through the long and complicated parkland alienation process. The applicant seeks to have the Town Board totally disregard all the sound planning reasons why the Planning Board in 2011 wisely required the establishment of 1 common driveway and 2 parkland reserve areas. It is a fact that all 3 lots that were created by the subject minor subdivision are currently owned and controlled by members of just one family, albeit through the vehicle of 3 separately created limited liability companies. If Dr. Harold Kopowitz and family members want to merge 2 of the currently vacant lots, that is not any reason for the town to break all the good planning principles that underlie the design of the subdivision. Lastly, it's indeed ironic, if not worse, that the same property owners that today asked the town to violate the terms of the deeded parkland reserve area were the defendants in an action that was required to be brought by the town in September 2016 to force them to remove obstructions, structures, and plantings unlawfully placed within one of the reserve areas. If you don't recall that event, I refer you to Town Board Resolution 2016-1040 and also the filed complaint by the town. All right, so that's all I have to say. This really isn't something that should not have been asked, should not have been requested, should not have gotten this far. The planning board should have clearly said no. The planning department is correct to say, please don't do this. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Jason, if you could put the next caller through, please.
Copy that. Caller ending 1225, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, this is John Stoner. My grandfather built our home at 70 Beach Lane overlooking the 66 Main Street parcel out our back door and especially from our second floor deck for 56 years between 56 and 2012. I'd had my piece read in absentia at the 319 meeting discussing the management plan for the 66 main parcel, and I wanted to add to it today to give a quick heads up prior to Thursday's meeting where I'll be talking about the quantification of public support from that meeting for the no farming, no concrete paths, and the designation of the entire acreage as historically significant. In addition, I wanted to let the board know that Hillary Osborne will also be speaking on Thursday and others. And if we might get a statement and are seeing if we might, we are also seeing, sorry, I wrote this quickly this morning, seeing if we might be able to get a statement representing Mr. Lauder's point of view. In the meantime, which Lauder's point of view would be a nice to have, but that would constitute both parties who would ever owned that parcel and recorded East Hampton town history would then have expressed their wishes, which would be made known runs counter to what the East Hampton Town Board has instead decided. And I believe that Hillary's family is 341-year owners of the property from Wainscott settling in 1675 to 2021 when it was sold to Lauder, who bought it to ensure it wouldn't be developed or changing in any way from how Hillary's father and Uncle David decided it should stay in 1980, not being farmed except for their 14-year span of planting very low impact and short season strawberries in a much smaller field designation than any of the potato fields had been there. And therefore, it has been fallow meadow for the last 46 years. And while Lauder did own it for 3 years until it was sold to the town in December 24, who would think the East Hampton Town Board would instead vote against an overwhelming and united community response to reimagine it differently than the Osborne family consciously chose to give that meadow vista as a forever gift to their children, grandchildren, and ancestors-to-be, along with the rest of their friends and neighbors in Wainscott and those that would come thereafter in perpetuity. Just wanted to kind of give that the heads up of that kind of sentiment that will be repeated, I'm thinking, at the Thursday meeting at 6 p.m. when I hope to have my tally completed, and I know Hillary is going to be joining us. Thanks very much.
Thank you, John. If you could please put the next caller through, please, Jason.
Yes, I am. And 4619, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning. My name is Esperanza Leon. Good morning to you all. I'm speaking today as a resident of East Hampton since 1976 and of Wainscott for the past 25 years, and not in my role as president of Wainscott Heritage Project. And I want to comment on, as John Soner did in the previous call, on the draft management plan for the John Osborne Homestead, and reiterate a scenic historic viewshed that links directly to the 17th century history of Wainscott. For months, you've been presented with clear, documented concerns regarding this plan. Individual residents, experts, and organizations have asked for the full 30-acre landmarking of this historic site, not just the buildings, to ensure its character is fully protected and preserved. Alarms have been raised about the environmental impact of intensive farming on the already fragile Wainscott Pond and the potential also of such activity to adversely affect the historic vista with contemporary structures like 12-foot agricultural fencing. And yet, we find ourselves facing a wall of intransigence from several members of this board who seem determined to push the current draft through without essential revisions. Watching this process, I'm reminded of a phrase my late father would use. My mind is made up. Don't confuse me with facts. That is exactly how it feels to present myself to some of you. The facts are that this $56 million CPF purchase was intended to protect our hamlet's heritage and environment. The aim of the management plan must be to reconcile the various purposes for which this parcel was acquired, not at the potential absolute exclusion of any one purpose, but by establishing reasonable limits so that this legacy of a built and natural environment can be shared and passed on to future generations. However, the refusal to codify low-impact agriculture or to grant the underlying land historic status, as you have done with other sites, suggests that certain board members have already closed their minds to the evidence. This level of stubbornness requires an explanation. If expert testimony on water quality and historic preservation, combined with numerous comments from the community, are not enough to add and revise a few lines in a draft document meant to guide the stewardship of this property, then what exactly is this board's priority? Please stop ignoring the facts of the matter and revise the plan to protect and properly steward the Osborne Homestead as a whole. Our community deserves a management plan that is a guide based on the realities of the site and the requests of our residents, not on a made-up mind that refuses to listen. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Esperanza. Jason, if you could please put the next caller through.
Caller ending 6466, you are on the air.
Good morning. My name is Vicki Littman, and I'm calling in to thank the board for purchasing the Osborne property. Preserving the farmland is important. But I just have one question. Has the soil been tested? Kathy?
This is public comment, Vicki, so we can get back to you, but
okay,
we're here
well,
to listen to you.
Okay,
yeah.
well then, all right, so I'll go on thinking that it hasn't been. So David was talking about the history of farming in Wainscott, so we need to also talk about the farms in Wainscott and the potatoes that they grew. This land could have been treated with pesticides like DDT from the 1940s until its ban in the 1970s, and Temic through the 1970s and early 1980s, some of the most toxic chemicals used in agriculture. We also know, as been stated by Kate, that the pond is toxic and only a few feet from this ag land. Kate was absolutely correct when she stated that low-impact farming, such as beekeeping, should be there. It would benefit all of the surrounding farms. Given that history, it is difficult to understand why there is no clear requirement for organic farming if you decide to do that. At the very least, comprehensive soil testing before further use. And I'm quite shocked that Ian wouldn't have insisted that it would be farmed organically. And this is not being anti-farming. This is about responsible stewardship. If we're preserving farmland, we also must protect our water and the health of our community. This board has a responsibility to ensure that this land does not pose a risk to residents, especially children and pregnant women who may be on or near the property. We have already seen what can happen. At Eco Farm and Long Lane, elevated arsenic levels required precautions, including protective measures like children and pregnant women having to wear masks and gloves when working on the land, and that situation alone should have been a lesson. Organic farming has helped to reduce arsenic levels there substantially. And David, you should understand that too, right? There's a strong possibility also that this land has little to no
Vicki, don't bring the
pesticides.
past history into it right now. It's the wrong place and the wrong time. I apologize. Yes, I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm damn proud of it. I'm
No,
near those fields right now. But I understand. I made my opinion pretty clear right now. But you're pulling up some bad history right now. It's not. It's just not appropriate.
Well, I'm not history. I'm just talking about why soil testing is so very important to everyone. I think that it's probably, like I said, there's maybe no strong possibility that this land has little to no pesticide residue, but that's why testing matters. If the land is clean, testing provides reassurance and builds public trust. If not, then the town has the information it needs to act responsibly. So I'm asking this board to test the soil if you haven't, ensure the safety, and then let's move on forward responsibly. That's it. I'm just, as someone who works on a farm and does farming, to me, organic farming should be the only option at that location. I support the farming there. I just think that it should be done organically, and I believe that Kate is stated that very well. So thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. Jason, if you could please put through the next caller.
Caller 5138.
Hello.
You're on the air. Oh, hi, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Bill Crane from the East Hampton Group for Wildlife. May is the spring turkey hunting season, and I'd like to raise three concerns. First, migrating geese have come to us with avian flu, which can be transmitted to other birds, including turkeys. Perhaps it can be transmitted through mutations to humans. If hunters eat the meat, they'd probably be safe because they cook it, but it could be contracted through handling with the hands. The risk, I would guess, is zero or minimal, but I think the town should check with the health officials on this. Second, do we really want to hunt and kill turkeys when they are a natural predator of ticks? Some report they can eat 200 ticks a day. The research is rather contradictory, but from what I've gathered, the ticks are reduced by the turkeys when the ticks are very young nymphs and not adults. So turkeys may be valuable to us. My third concern about the turkey hunt is that, as a general one, is that turkeys, like us, are living beings who want to live. Indeed, they are our relatives. They share about 75% of their genes with humans, and biologists have used turkeys to guide them in the identification of genes in very groundbreaking research. I became aware of how much they share human emotions one day at our farm sanctuary, so I'd like to tell you a story. A group of 9 Girl Scouts visited our farm. They presented us with gifts and then held a ceremony in the barn. They stood in the circle while the girls took turns reading passages to respect all animals. In other words, the girl reading the passage stood in the middle of the circle while the others quietly watched in the circle. The one reading the passage, each time they made very solemn vows. They vowed to cherish and always and love the beauty of animals, and they pledged to protect all animals' right to a natural death and to console them and ask the angels to take them in their arms. The statements were very solemn and moving. What happened next was something none of us who worked at the farm would ever have expected. Soon after the scouts began reading their pledges, our 4 young turkeys, female turkeys, who at that point in their lives had spent every waking moment noisily moving about, joined the circle. I mean, it was totally a shock because these turkeys, they either slept or they walked around peeping away. But here they joined the circle, and each in a separate part, and each sat in perfect stillness with her eyes on the reader. It was as if the turkeys were listening to the pledges and were as moved as the rest of us. All the humans present were astonished. We just shrugged our shoulders. How could they be so quiet and listening? It seemed like they spoke English or understood English, but obviously they didn't understand English. But they did respond to the girls' quiet reverence. The scouts were very reverent in the turkeys felt this inward quietness. I think what they felt was a spiritual emotion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Jason, if you could put the next caller through, please.
Caller 4221, you're on the air.
Thank you. Good morning, Town Board. This is Jane Meering in Amagansett, speaking on 66 Winscott Main Street. Sorry if I sound a little creaky. I am sick today. I participated in work sessions and public hearings ever since the very amazing, announcement you made that you were going to acquire the property. And that whole time I did so as a member of the Wainscott Heritage Board. But today I'm not speaking as part of that. I'm speaking as an individual citizen. And a citizen who has devoted, the last 4 or 5 years of life working on advocacy issues. And part of that has been to work with the public, engage the public, help the public understand why they need to engage at town board meetings, at public hearings, why their comments are important. And indeed, as the supervisor discussed last week in your post-hearing discussion, dozens and dozens of public hearing comments were received into the public hearing record that asked for and supported certain amendments to the draft. I also sat through 3 property management committees, as the public has a right to do, discussions on the draft. The members of the property management committee, and by the way, I don't even know if there are minutes of these committee meetings, all the members, I think all the members, maybe one not, wanted changes to that draft. Somehow they weren't made. The point is that several members here have, in this case, seemed to decide that all those public comments can be just swept away, not considered, not balanced into the decision. The supervisor rightly and justly and importantly asked each board member, can we compromise here? This is supposed to be a collaboration with the public. And what I saw and heard was crossed arms and just want it as written. This is a bigger issue than just 66 Winscott Main Street, but it's crucial here. We have a board right now that does support public participation, that cherishes it, that encourages it. And if this, on this huge issue, this $56 million of public money that was spent, somehow just dispenses with public comment by some members, it's very concerning. And for me, it's very sad, and I'm pretty despondent about it. So that's all I want to say right now. I don't really want to go through all the issues and points again. I'm on the record, for those. But thank you, all board members. The discussion was robust, but there are still some important adjustments that can be made so that all the purposes for which this was acquired can be properly balanced. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Jason, if you could put the next caller on, please.
Copy that. Caller ending 0229. 0299. You're on the air.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Town Board. This is Carolyn Logan Gluck calling. And what I have to say largely echoes what other callers had to say regarding the post-hearing discussion at 66, the project at 66 Wainscott Main Street. You know, to me, a discussion is something where people bring their perspectives to the table and they discuss them. You know, they try and strengthen their own thinking by hearing about the thoughts of others. And I guess what I saw on Tuesday was that people came to the dais with lengthy prepared statements and their minds already made up. And so that when the supervisor, to her credit, tried to initiate discussion, it went nowhere. It was a wrap. I think that's really a shame that there isn't more engagement amongst the members of the town board there on the dais when a discussion is called for. And I hope that there still might be one. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Jason, is there anyone else on the line?
There are no other callers.
Okay. I'm going to go into the room one more time. Is there anyone here that would like to speak during public comment? All right. So that's a wrap. We're going to head into topics now, and we've got Jeannie Carrozza with bids. Good morning, Jeannie.
Good morning.
And you've got a long list.
I do. I'll be quick. Okay, first we're going to go through the acceptances. The first is portable toilets, rental and servicing. Outback portable toilets was the apparent low bidder for that one. Food service and kitchenware items next for Human Services, Mavilla Foods of New York, and Sam Tell and Son for that bid. Next is the rebuilding of the engine on the police dive vessel. Emergency mechanical service in the amount of $50,470 is the apparent low bidder for that one. And the last bid to accept is a sidewalk plow for the highway department, and No Baloney Heavy Equipment is the apparent bidder for that, low bidder for that one, in the amount of $100,000. Next, I have several extensions, the first being the specialized bus services for Montauk. Hampton Hopper has agreed to extend that one. The services run from June 25th through September 7th. It's a total of 74 days, and the total cost for that is $192,797.38. Compliance work at the airport fuel farm, Gemstar Construction Corp. has agreed to extend. Next, we have the collection of delinquent fines and penalties. Fundamental Business Services Incorporated has agreed to renew. Next is the supply and delivery of international truck parts. Allegiance Trucks has agreed to renew. The next renewal is for the supply and delivery of Ford OEM truck parts. Newlands Bayshore Ford is the vendor for that one. And the last renewal is the professional engineering services for town projects. L.K. McLean Associates has agreed to renew for that one. And next, I have several notices coming up. The first is for the Georgia Capon New York 27 Rest Stop Stormwater Abatement, the East Hampton Airport mowing, purchase and installation of the motors for aquaculture boats, T-shirts, sweatshirts, and other uniform items. And then the last bid to notice will be the SYA HVAC improvements. And also the last on my list is the agreement to join the joint municipal bidding with Eastern Suffolk BOCES for cooperative bidding. They'll act as the lead agency, and we use several of their services and commodities for that cooperative. And that's it.
All right. Any questions for Jeannie?
I do have one, Jeannie. Just on the delinquency fine collection, what is the fee percentage-wise that they receive for that?
Shoot, I don't have that. It was in the resolution. They agreed to decrease it this year. I think it was 2%. something. I don't have that total.
Follow
But
up
it's on,
offline,
yeah.
that's fine,
okay, it's
that's fine.
on the
Yeah.
Okay.
resolution for that,
Thank you.
but okay. All right.
Great. Thank you, Jeannie. Okay, next up, John Tarbett, you're here to present on the new 173 Skim Hampton subdivision, a request for reserve area use. Welcome, John.
Hi, John Tarbett for the applicant. The client came to me and said they had a common driveway. It's 3 properties in common ownership. They had a common driveway. They asked about the feasibility of getting rid of the common driveway to each have their own access. I told them that it would probably not work, and they said, well, we'd be willing to give up one of the 3 lots. So we reduced density from approved 3-lot subdivision to a 2-lot subdivision in order to each have their own driveway. The driveways would be approximately 500 feet apart. I thought that made a lot of sense. Brought an application to the planning board. The planning department was opposed to it. We twice met with the planning board, who decided that they actually think that it's a good idea. The planning board's opinion was that the reduction in density more than offset the 2 driveways 500 feet apart. The planning department is obviously still opposed to the idea. I do disagree with them. I thought that the planning portion of this had already been decided. That it's a little odd to me that the planning board would write to you saying they think it's a good idea, and the planning department would oppose the planning board. But that is what it is. David Buddha made some comments. He was mostly right on the facts, but wrong on the law. All the law that he mentioned has been vetted to the town attorney's office, the planning board attorney, and there's no issue with the law. So basically, the question to the board is, does the board think that the reduction in density offsets the potential harm of having 2 driveways? It's a summation of the application.
Is that it, John?
That's it, unless you have questions.
Okay. Board members have questions for John?
I do. Is there a particular reason why you want to have the driveway in a different place than the original subdivision?
Not so much in a different place. It's just that the owners would like to each have their own driveway. So that's it. Yeah. And again, to me, it seemed like a home run, and to the planning board, it seemed like a home run. To literally, I mean, the whole goal of my 25 years of doing this code has usually been about reducing density. So to me, the chance to remove a home, and these are big homes built on Skim Hampton Road. If you did the inverse, like if somebody came to you and said, hey, I wanted to subdivide my property and go from 2 lots to 3, but we're willing to have a common driveway, nobody would say, that makes sense. Like it seems like a very good zoning. And the planning board agreed. I just disagree with the planning department. And the question to the board is whether you think it's a good idea or not.
What is the lot size that's being given up, John?
About 1.5 acres,
okay.
I believe.
And the driveway is how big?
40 feet wide.
Okay. And how long?
It would just be it's 40 feet wide, so we need to get through. We would need to get through. So the
acreage to acreage, roughly, what's been given up versus what's kind of been taken in?
I think it's 1,200 square feet.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So significantly less is being taken.
Yeah. So.
And any covenants on that lot being given up that it can never be built, or it will be reserved as wildland?
Right. So as part of the process, we would be able a large lot easement so that it can never be re-subdivided.
Okay. But let's be clear, the proposal isn't to give up one of the lots, it's to combine them and have more acreage than 2 lots as opposed to 3 lots.
I think I agree with your, maybe said differently.
Well, I think, Tom, they're not proposing to offer a separate easement area.
Right.
They're just reducing the lots within the same area they already have.
We would have been fine, actually, right? If we could have created easement in another portion of the property happily, but it's just such a small area that nobody asked for it. Yeah, I mean, the question is, does each individual board member asked if they would prefer to have 2 lots there rather than 3 in return for the driveways? Because to be clear, if the board were to say no, 3 homes would be built there. So that's the question.
Do you address the 2016 court case and have that finalized? Was that finalized, and what type of action?
I have no idea about that case. David Buddha brought that up today, right? I think, was that where somebody was clearing along the road? I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with the application. I wasn't representing anybody then.
Can you also express how this wouldn't set precedent?
Right. So the question that's essentially the planning department's argument is precedent. So I think the question for the board is a good precedent or a bad precedent? And that's a fair question. To me, if I was a board member, and I can only speak for myself, each of you have to decide it yourself. But if people wanted to come to me and say, and it's specific to the example, right? Driveways 100 feet apart are different than driveways 400 or 500 feet apart. But there's no safety issue here, right? These driveways are super far apart. And it's a 25-foot wide driveway, 40 feet deep. So if you were to say yes to this, and somebody else were to come to you and say, hey, I have 3 lots, but I'm willing to reduce density and go to 2 lots for each of the remaining lots to have their own driveway, you would probably feel obligated to approve that if you were to approve this. The question is whether you think that's good or bad. To me, it's good, but it's just my opinion.
So what's the benefit to the applicant compared to the detriment for the town?
Well, it's a zoning board principle, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Benefit, the detriment to the town is reduction of density. I mean, I think it's a benefit to both. The question is whether you think it's a detriment to the town to have individual homes each have their own driveway. People don't like common driveways. I know they're a very good planning principle, and they serve their function, especially where you're going to have driveways that are close together. But a situation like this, where you can have this great separation between 400 or 500 feet between driveways, and you only have 2 lots, doesn't really seem to me to be a problem.
By combining the properties, you have more GFA.
You would have more GFA if you combine the properties.
Would you, in the initial the initial subdivision, been to the max GFA of the current code? If not, how much more?
Initial subdivision?
Yes, the initial subdivision from 2011, I believe. There was 3 lots. Each lot was. What I'm wondering is, with the combining of the lots, as Ian had mentioned, what does that do to the GFA, the potential structure on the property?
Well, you get for every let's say it's 40,000 or 60,000 square feet, you would get 6,000 square feet of extra GFA split between 2 lots. I think that's rough math. I don't have lot sizes in front of me.
Okay. So it would probably increase.
Oh, it would definitely increase, right?
Only one.
If you add lot area,
density.
if you add lot area, but you also have to think about 3 lots is more traffic on just Hampton Road, right? 2 lots is less traffic. So if we're talking about driveways, which is what we're talking about, is there more traffic from one shared driveway for 3 lots or 2 individual? I mean, I don't see the opposition to it, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I wouldn't have brought the application to the planning board in the first place, so I thought it was a bad idea.
Thank you.
But everybody has their own opinions. So.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I think we should hear from the planning department. Hi, Tina. Sarah.
Hello, board members, supervisor. I won't go through the history. I think it was summed up sufficiently. I'm just going to have Sarah bring up the map so you can see what the property looks like now. So if you could just bring up the aerial and zoom in on the close-up version. So as you can see, there's 3 lots, roughly 40,000 square feet each, and 2 would be combined. I thought it was for one larger lot, like 80,000 square feet. So that's what the proposal was. You can see there's 2 reserved areas that have been created on each side of the existing common driveway. The existing common driveway is built according to code and sufficient to serve the 3 lots as it's built. And those parcels are colored in green because they are recreational open space in our town GIS system. So the planning department did advise the planning board against supporting the request for the use of the reserve area. We have several reasons for this that I will go through. The first is, common driveways are typical features of planning in the town. They're recommended for important reasons. They reduce traffic conflicts. They help maintain the rural aesthetic of the town. And they reduce the clearing needed for driveways, right? So now you've already done clearing for one sufficient driveway, you'd have to do it again. The second reason is that we do think that the original density, which is in accordance with the A zoning for the location, is appropriate. That's how you do subdivisions, right? According to the zoning, we don't think that it's excessive or contrasting with the surrounding uses. So we don't see a significant value in reducing the number of lots enough to approve the use of town-owned area for a different purpose. Next, the intent of the adoption of the reserved area in the town board resolution was preservation of open space, and reducing the area dedicated to that does diminish the original utility of that action. Last, and probably most importantly, is that we offer granting this request could serve as precedent for other similar requests, and we could have many more instances of this before the board. You know, people obviously would prefer private driveways in many instances. So opening this door could allow additional requests to bifurcate reserve areas, which could alter aesthetics at many locations, as well as result in fragmentation of the habitats that reserve areas have created. The cumulative result of that would be reducing the effectiveness of reserve areas as a tool for open space preservation in the town. Meanwhile, they have been a primary tool for that use for decades, right? Importantly, reserved area is defined in the subdivision code 220-1.04, a parcel of land set aside in perpetuity as open space, right? So not allowing the reserve area to continue for that use would really conflict with that section of code. And for all those reasons, that is why we recommended that the planning board and now the town board deny this use of town-owned property for private purpose. Thank you.
Does anyone have questions for Tina?
No.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so I think it would only be fitting that we discuss this now as well. So I don't know who wants to start.
I'll start. Oh, Ian, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ian.
No, go ahead, Kate. You please.
I'm going to thank John for bringing this application to the board today. I agree with Tina on this. If you take a look at this lot in this area, the reason why you offer a mitigation is because it mitigates something, an effect that you want to take away. And on this particular lot, the way that it was subdivided, I don't believe density is an issue at all. It's only 3 lots. As David pointed out, if you reduce it to 2 lots, you would be able to increase the size of the structure built and all the amenities, because now you have more lot size, more distance to side yard, front yard setbacks. So I don't see the mitigation as reducing any type of impact that I see potentially happening if this was granted. And that also comes from my 9 years on the zoning board. I know that for us, we have been trying to, if we look at many studies in Hamlet studies and industrial area studies, we are seeking to reduce curb cuts because of driveway traffic, and increasing them is contrary to good planning. And for the reasons that Tina stated, but it's also supported by the studies that we make where you try to reduce onto a public road curb cuts by having the traffic circulate inside of it. Common driveways are extremely common here. I don't see a hardship mentioned that substantiates making this change, because it's more than a simple change. It's a very dramatic change to take away deeded open space. It's not just a matter of moving lines around. This subdivision happened in recent times. It's not an ancient subdivision. So whatever the conditions of the subdivision are appropriate for these times, and people rely on these deeds of these open spaces that are meant to be in perpetuity. And for me, it would take a lot more reasoning, hardship, and a very unique situation to feel comfortable removing deeded open space parcels that were set aside as part of an approval for a subdivision application. Those are my initial thoughts.
Thank you, Kate. Ian?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not supportive of the request for the reasons that Tina and Kate have stated. I don't mind the request. Thanks for being here. I think it's a reasonable thing to ask us to entertain. But generally, I think the trade-off of offering less density, typically in a case if something was not conforming, we would jump at that. You know what I mean? If there's two lots that exist and you're combining them to one that would then comport with zoning, that's something that happens all the time through good planning. Or if there is an environmental sensitivity that would mean that the underlying zoning is not in fact appropriate for this subdivision to have 3 lots. I just don't think that that's the case here. I don't think that I don't think the trade-off of just less density for the sake of less density is worth us giving up easement areas, which, as you know, and I think the applicant acknowledged that would set the precedent that basically in any case, based on density alone, we would give up reserved area to add a second driveway. And I don't think that that's a precedent that I'm comfortable setting. I think that this board, we often get criticized for, or the CPF fund gets criticized for reducing the build out, and that's what's making things so expensive. I would argue that we use CPF funds to buy land that is not appropriate for development, but that's just not the case here. I know that's a little bit of a tangent, but I don't see the planning benefit, and I don't support it.
Thank you, Ian. Who wants to go next?
Sure, I will. I'll throw a different perspective out. I mean, look, I think the concept of having 2 houses versus 3 houses, I do think there could be some potential environmental benefits to that. Yes, the GFA might potentially be larger, but putting utilities in, et cetera, that has impact. So I acknowledge that there's scope there to adhere to this. In terms of like the use of the town land for driveway access, I appreciate that that's problematic in nature. I would be more open to considering it if there were specific easements on the person's property that would say, hey, look, for every quarter acre of land we're giving up on this, then we will designate a certain amount of land on this property that will effectively be parkland per, that covenant. So I understand why you might want that individual driveway access. It is a nice thing to have, but to Tina's point, shared driveways are good planning. They're not as desirable for the homeowner, I acknowledge that. But if there is compromise to be found here in that aspect of like designating more of the property owner's land to effectively be parkland, to offset that, then I would be open to it.
Leaves it to me. So with this location, I believe the applicant that is actually currently in front of us right now is the same applicant that the initial subdivision happened in 2011. Am I correct, John? Okay, so in 2011, because the purchase was under the same name in 2007, I believe. I'll stay in my train of fact on that because it doesn't come down to, it's just a sidebar to it. Overall, this property is already subdivided and these easements were put into place and restrictions and accepted by a previous planning board and accepted by a previous town board. It's very difficult for me to go and try to remove something that was a legally binding document from a previous town board and their decisions made at that time. I also believe that this would set a bad precedent for the town, and the benefit to the applicant, which I asked, is not there. The benefit is just to have a single private driveway compared to detriment to the town, in which multiple different similar applications or subdivisions in the past can come and ask for the same action. If you zoom out, just even on the map where they're at, there's another subdivision just a couple of properties down, and also if you go on the backside of Montauk Highway where there's shared driveways for multiple properties, what would stop them from coming in and pointing that you just did this to my neighbor on there? I don't think that's a precedent that I would like to set, and that's my standard.
Thank you, David. And I just want to read.
But thank you for bringing it.
And I just want to read just one excerpt from the planning board, the planning department memo. Additionally, according to the 2011 minor subdivision approval, condition of approval number 13 states, no buildings or structures may be placed, installed, erected, or constructed within the areas depicted on the map as reserved area, nor may any clearing, grading, or filling occur within these areas, and the said areas shall be left in their natural state forever. I believe that is, as my colleagues have said, that is good planning. The applicant hasn't demonstrated a hardship, and I support the planning department's recommendation that we do not approve the second driveway on that subdivision. So I think we have 4 board members that don't support it. Tom is open to compromise, but I think that you can take that back to your clients. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, next up, we're going to hear from 3 of our department heads to give us review their 2025 accomplishments and 2026 goals. First up is Kim Shaw for Natural Resources. Welcome, Kim.
Good afternoon. Okay, so this is our cover shot showing some of our latest projects. The bottom left is EV charging stations that we just installed at Town Hall. And above that is CPF water quality and Suffolk County grant to do improvements, stormwater improvements to the boat launch on Westlake Drive. And I'll get into a little bit more detail. And of course, there in the bottom is our endangered species, the piping plover. My staff takes excellent pictures. I just had to showcase that one. So our mission is to protect and restore the natural environment through sustainable practices that support healthy, resilient ecosystems. We are dedicated to establishing native vegetation, ensuring clean and accessible water for all, advancing the transition to clean energy, and safeguarding endangered species for future generations. A little wordy. So some of our 2025 accomplishments. So we got a New York State Zero Emission Vehicle Grant, ZEV, to install 20 Level 2 electric vehicle chargers at Town Hall. The initiative supports New York State's zero emission goals and aligns with the town's renewable energy roadmap. Another large-scale project that they're working on with NYSERDA, who supports a lot of the town's initiatives, is to develop a master plan for the beneficial reuse of a fossil fuel peaker plant on Buell Lane. The plan recommends the installation of a large-scale solar array post-decommissioning. It provides strategic guidance for clean energy transition and site redevelopment. So this is still in play. We have documents going back and forth between the state, and we plan on doing a presentation with NYSERDA and the property owner to the town board as soon as everything's finalized. What we also did this year was updated the water quality improvement plan. We incorporated secondary priority water bodies. We've added enhanced maintenance monitoring component, which is so critical to all of our water quality projects moving forward. And we've updated and refined priority projects throughout the town. Let's see. We were awarded several grants for water quality projects. The first one was we received a $100,000 grant from Suffolk County Water Quality Protection and Restoration Program, and that funding supports the Westlake Stormwater Abatement Program. It's also funded partially through CPF, which supplemented the Suffolk County grant. What we did there was we ripped up some of the pavement and installed a true grid system, which is pavers to allow for all the water that's coming off of Westlake Drive to dissipate before it reaches the lake. We also installed 2 bioswales closer to the lake for any overflow that came through there. We've tested it in some very significant rainfalls, and it seems to be working just great. We also removed some old chain link fencing and are doing intensive planting with natives on both sides of the property in the next week or 2. The town of East Hampton already also received New York State Dormitory Authority monies, $500,000 to offset the costs of improving the New York State 27 rest stop, where we're doing stormwater abatement there. CPF and the DOSNY grant supported this effort, and like Jeannie just mentioned, that's going out to bid, and we should be working on that. So that's going to be the gateway to the town of East Hampton. We're going to improve that and make it much more visually appealing.
Do you ever recall us getting DOSNY money before for projects?
Not the village, but the roundabout. But not that I know.
Great.
Let's see. So we also this year published a native plant booklet that was developed and published to serve as a practical guide for revegetation and planting. It has detailed descriptions and photos of native species, and I think it really helps residents who have no idea what genus species is to actually see the photo and say, okay, I could use that in my landscaping. And so far it's been successul.
It's great.
Yeah. Kim, if I could just interrupt here for a minute. It would be great to have your team bring that back for a work session presentation on the booklet, so it can more folks will know about it. I don't think it's been widely promoted at all.
Okay, yeah, we could do that.
And we'll can also, once you make the work session presentation, we'll push it out too on social media.
Okay, great. Yeah, it is available on the town's website, Natural Resources. Let's see. We were extremely surprised to find out that the town received a notable contribution from a private trust to support endangered species monitoring. Those funds will enhance our efforts to monitor, protect, and manage this vulnerable species and their habitats.
And this is for piping plover?
Yes, it was
Do you
specific.
have all your interns in place for this? Are you still looking to bring folks on board?
We have retained one person and we are looking for one more. I've gotten a ton of applications and we're just sifting through them. So we should be fully staffed with the plover team in a couple weeks. Just most of the kids that have applied are in college, so I have to wait for them to get home.
Right.
2026. Looking forward. We're launching a sustainability campaign focused on promoting environmentally responsible landscaping practices for homeowners. Key efforts include encouraging use of natives, reducing irrigation, limiting pesticide use, and supporting pollinators. We have prepared a series of informational pamphlets on all these different topics that we're going to be launching soon. We're just have it going through committee right now, and we're getting comments, but they should be everything from pollinators to water quality, lawn irrigation, all that. And they're really simple informational booklets that we have ready to launch.
And we put funding in the budget for 2026 to support that effort.
And here I'll just add that not only is it healthier, it's more affordable.
Right. So town water quality improvements, like I said, the Westlake stormwater includes bioswales and permeable parking, and that should be wrapping up the end of this month. We're continuing to support innovative alternative septic systems. The town will continue to lead by example by installing the IA systems at town facilities to reduce nitrogen discharge. And the 27 East rest stop, you're going to hear more about it from Melissa and Tom. And the other thing I think that I missed on here was our Nitrogen Smart Communities campaign. And we're kicking that off. Melissa and her team has already started, and we're going to have a presentation on that today also. So it's really interesting. And these are just some stats that we track all year round. Plovers, we have detailed graphs and maps. We reference all of our sites so we know where all the birds are. Every year we go back to the same areas. This year we've expanded our monitoring into Montauk to make sure we have no surprises in July. So far, so the birds haven't come back. We have a very rigorous revegetation compliance program. Mark pretty much handles this by himself. It's daunting. He does inspections, has a spreadsheet that he triggers him to go back to each site after the initial inspection to follow up to make sure that the revegetation is healthy and still in place. And then we have the IA septic system water quality incentive program, where we offer up to from $15,000 to $20,000 for installation of a new IA system. We're nearing 200 installations annually, and we have spent almost $3 million in 2025 for these installations just for the individual homeowner installation. Recently, well, last year, the governor announced that they were incentivizing homeowners even more, and now the state and the county are incentivizing homeowners with up to 75% of total costs covered by for the IA installation. So that's going to help out a lot of people that wanted to do it. So you could see that we received a lot more applications than we've had installs, because sometimes the financial obligation is difficult. And to that point, we are working with CCOM. This week, we're doing a presentation here at the library to talk about IA installations, how much money is available, and how we can help applicants go through that process. So that's going to be here Friday, 2:30.
2:30 to 4:30.
Yes. And that's about it.
All right, questions for Kim?
I've got two questions, Kim, well, 2/3. The first is on the charging stations at Town Hall. Like,
Yes.
kudos getting them done. The great shame is, like, they're not used. You know, like, they've been in 4 or 5 months now, and maybe we see one car a day there. You know, there's two issues I have with that. One, I know the fees we're charging, I kind of raised this last time. We do 30 cents, I think, a kilowatt hour. You know, if we want people to use them, I think we should, again, reconsider lowering that to kind of encourage people to use them. Two is we put signage up there saying that no other vehicles are allowed to park in those spots. I didn't actually understand that was part of the initial plan. I don't think that's a good idea. I think our town parking lot is very full, and we need to ensure that, you know,
Yeah,
there's
no,
adequate parking.
similar to Montauk, where we have the Tesla charging stations, anybody could park there. So I didn't know about the signage, but we'll work on fixing that.
Right.
That anybody should be able to park in those spots.
That was one. The second was just, I think Melissa just mentioned this before, like, you know, water quality testing. You know, I love that we're doing these projects to, you know, improve the water quality, but the results of what we're doing, how are we measuring that? I don't see that in the goals for next year. So is that something that is definitively going to be happening?
Yes. So included in some of the change that we made was monitoring, where before we couldn't use that money. So we had to rely on partners to be able to do the initial upfront monitoring to show that there was degradation, and then we did the water quality improvement. We're building into almost all of our projects at least 3 to 5 years of ongoing monitoring to make sure that everything's working. One example of that is several years ago, 2016, 17, we installed some stormwater abatement around Pussy's Pond, and unfortunately, we weren't able to support that effort with continuing monitoring. And so that proposal just came back before the CPF Water Quality Committee to go in and do additional testing and see 5 years later, has water quality improved substantially with all these different projects going on in the neighborhood. So yeah, with this new change to CPF water quality, I think that we're going to be able to do a lot more and for a longer period of time.
No, I think that's critical, and I think we've run into that issue historically, so I'm glad we're doing that. The last thing is, again, on this, the septic systems. I mean, it's a two-part question. You know, one, I just want to get clarification because, look, I've heard anecdotally in the past two sides. One, that, you know, if these systems are not used year-round, then there's a risk that the bacteria dies and they don't actually present the nitrogen savings that we want to see. So I just want to confirm, is that correct or not? And two is look, in terms of prioritizing where these are going in, you know, you look at the water body at 66 Main Street and you read Dr. Gobler's reports on what's driving that. It's sediment buildup and it's septic systems around that property, that water body. Same on Fort Pond in Montauk, you know. It's mammalian, but it's also the septic systems around the pond. We have these critical water bodies in the town. Is there a way to prioritize, you know, getting the septic systems into those adjacent properties, or kind of give more funding to those properties? I mean, because those are the key areas we really want these going in.
Right. So for Wainscott, the CPF Water Quality Technical Advisory is entertaining a proposal for water quality improvements on that piece. We're still debating it, and the committee is going to make recommendations to the town board, so you will see something come in for that area.
Right.
Fort Pond, we are working with CCOM, trying to encourage these property owners. We've been doing individual studies showing that there's a real need and what the problem is. It's convincing the homeowners to go ahead with this. So we're doing initiatives like Take the Pledge, working with CCOM, sign this pledge to be a water quality improvement project. We're trying to incentivize people. And Tom, maybe that is something we could do is, and I'm not sure, but our priority watersheds is 20,000 enough to make it worthwhile for them to tear up their lawn?
I mean, anecdotally, I hear it. That's people, if they are having to pay 5 figures out of pocket, then that's a deal breaker.
Well, like I said, with the governor's new increase in funding for just this very initiative, it should be a lot easier. 75% covered is pretty significant. And then that's not even counting the town money. 65.
And what is the kind of the challenge we face, though, I find, is like, I mean, and you tell me if I'm wrong, is the more funding that's put, the higher the costs seem to become of putting these things in because the private industries are aware of this. But yeah, no, I get, look, the funding is phenomenal. And look, I will say personally, I put one of these in many years ago and it's an amazing system. And I love the fact that, you are pulling nitrogen out. But yeah, getting them in those critical water bodies is really, for me, where I'd love to see the focus. And if that means giving those properties more money to protect those water bodies, I see the benefit there.
So this was a Suffolk County initiative, and, they're not mandated right now that, like upgrading your fuel tank or anything like that. This is a voluntary program, but all new homeowners have to install them. About the O&M, so that's why we have in place a 3-year O&M agreement with all the property, anyone who installs one. And so they are routinely serviced. And if they need to be fed, they are.
Okay.
That was one big concern we had about our seasonal.
So we have money in the budget. We have public information line, and I think there may even be money in your budget, Kim. Melissa, I think it was back when this law first got passed, we did a postcard that we sent to every household. We have put it in our quarterly newsletter to remind folks. Now that the dollar figure has gone up to $65,000, I think that we should be doing that again.
Okay.
And if we feel the need, if the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee feels the need that around the priority watersheds, we need to increase that funding, we can certainly do that. And I know we've been working with CCOM as a partner and Acabana Protection Committee. Yes. They're also doing efforts with their homeowners around Acabana Harbor to try to, it's an education, right? That's what we need to do. But thank you.
Sure.
And I know I just got an email yesterday about the panel that's happening here on Friday at 2:30.
To Tom's point, in terms of watersheds, CCM is also hosting at Second House this weekend, a bagel breakfast for people in the watershed so that they can come by and sort of really focus on that area.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Kim.
Sure.
Okay, next up, we have Scott Wilson for Land Acquisition and Management. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. I actually first want to say thank you for actually hosting all the department heads to come up here. I can only speak for myself, but I'm very reluctant to come and give another presentation to the town board. But every time I come and I listen to all the presentations to the various department heads, I'm always amazed at the diversity of things that we actually do within this town. And I'm particularly looking forward to Barley's presentation next, so I'm sticking around for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
We have a small, dedicated staff that I am particularly grateful to work with. I mean, what's not to like? We preserve land, then monitor, manage, and protect it on behalf of the public who receives the benefit of admiring, walking, farming, or recreating on it. Our role for the town is really rather remarkable. Glad this position exists. So could you just go back one side? I want to read the... This department's goal is to help protect our sense of place through the acquisition, land management, and implementation of water quality initiatives to preserve East Hampton's unique natural environments, open spaces, farms, and historic places for the enjoyment of all those who share our community. So that's our sound bite. our mission statement. With regard to accomplishments for 2025, we're sort of broken into two categories, land acquisition side and land management. And so first I'll go through land acquisition. In 2025, the town preserved 9 properties comprising 36.25 acres at an approximate cost of $45.5 million. Yes, prices of properties are going up. The town is in contract on 7 additional parcels comprising 20.76 acres at an approximate cost of $12.25 million. The CPF law was amended to include a new Section 14 to create the Office of Regional Community Preservation Fund Council and a Peconic Bay Region Advisory Committee. The first step required the 5 towns to create and sign an intermunicipal agreement on who the council and committee would consist of, which I'm gratified to say that has now been adopted. Why is that in my accomplishments? 5 times 5 town board members all agreeing and working in coordination to get this adopted. Not an easy task.
Plus their town attorney's offices.
Plus, oh, yeah. Yes. We continue to share CPF coordination and insights as a member of the Southampton and East Hampton CPF Advisory Board, the Ag Advisory Committee, the Property Management Committee, the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee, the Nature Preserve Committee, and as chair of the aforementioned Peconic Bay Region Advisory Committee. The more committees we attend, the more informed we are and the better decisions we can make. So I'm just grateful to be a part of all of those and be able to participate and, as I say, keep myself informed. I'm grateful to be working with our housing and community development and planning departments to review, assess, and take a balanced approach for land acquisition for housing purposes. We have 2 in the queue right now, resolution, so I'm not at liberty to discuss, but it is quite an accomplishment. We can find an appropriate piece for housing purposes, so that's been great. On the land management side, we do a really good job with voluntary compliance. It should be no surprise that some homeowners that are adjacent to our preserves accidentally perhaps mow into our preserve or maybe extend that fence a little bit. And so we've discovered 30 violations so far, 21 closed and counting. We annually monitor 5,800 acres of our preserved lands. We maintain over 50 miles of single track trails. This year, I have to say in particular, there's been more trees down than we're used to. We've had a couple of storms that with high winds, and it's not just the pitch pine trees that are falling over, oak trees, other trees are falling also. And so we are spending considerable time to reopen trails and cut those trees out of the way. We maintain 19 grasslands on our preserved properties. We have adopted several management plans, including the Parsons Dodge Homestead Management Plan, the Hog Creek South End Preserve Management Plan, and an update to the Wainscott Green Management Plan. We licensed this 20 Spring Fireplace Road. You will hopefully see horses on the Springs Fireplace side of that property. And then the balance, plus or minus 15 acres or so, you're going to see that farmland go back into row crop production. So,
can I ask you a question on that? Because it came up at my East Hampton CAC. Obviously, we had to take the barn down. We had a demolition there. Everybody's anxious to know, when are we going to see, when are the farmers and the horses, when is everybody going to start?
Well, if you've driven by,
active?
if you've driven by, Kaylee, the young lady who's going to bring the horses, a lot of improvement to the fencing in the back. The town did the fence on the front and lots of improvements to the fence in the back. I would suggest, and she's actually going to do a little moving of sheds, etc. I think the horses will be there imminently. It's going to take a little bit longer to get the row crop production in service. They should be applying for a deer fence soon. That's a process that they have to go through. It doesn't happen overnight. And so I think before they start tilling and planting, they're going to want that fence in place. So I don't have an ETA exactly on that. But, all of that work will be happening in this calendar year.
Beautiful. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah. Next slide. Just in brief, I like to go over a chart of a 3-year activity of CPF by hamlet, because that's kind of fun. So in Montauk, we acquired 11 parcels, 17.91 acres at $9.3 million. In Amagansett, we acquired 4 parcels, 4.6 acres, $4.1 million. East Hampton was 9 parcels, 34.74 acres at $28.1 million. In Springs, 12 parcels, 25.44 acres, 17.5 million. Wayne-Scott, 1 parcel, 28 acres, 56 million. And within the villages, 2 parcels, 5.5 acres, 20 million. For a total of 39 parcels, 116.2 acres, and $135.2 million. Let's see. And if we could just go on to goals that we have, we're going to continue to pursue the preservation of environmentally sensitive properties, parcels for recreation, those parcels that build on other open space, trail connections and buffers. We're going to continue our practice of recapturing former farm parcels to reinvigorate our farming heritage. We're going to balance land preservation activity with affordable housing initiatives and coordinate directly with our Housing and Community Development Department. We're going to work with our Planning Department, town attorneys, ARB, Parks and Building Maintenance Department, Town Board, engineers, and historic consultants, all toward the rehabilitation of 5 historic properties acquired and designated by the Town Board. We're going to start in earnest with our new Peconic Bay Region Advisory Committee. I've worked with the town law 64E for 26 years and counting. And, it's 7 pages, but the amount of interpretation and nuance within those 7 pages is pretty incredible. And I'm really looking forward to working with the other 5 East End towns to sort of take a balanced approach and look and to ensure because every person who reads this document reads it slightly differently. And so now that we have a body that all 5 towns can work together, we will endeavor to row in the same direction and interpret the law the same and equally for each town. So I'm gratified to be able to do that. And on the land management side, we have 2 arborists that will continue to coordinate with the Highway Department, Parks and Buildings Maintenance, the Town Board to perform tree risk assessments as required. We're going to monitor the increasing number of preserved acres. We actually walk all of those properties corner to corner every year. We're going to participate on the Wildlife Management Committee, the TIC Advisory Committee, the Nature Preserve Committee, and the new Fire Access Committee. We're going to continue to maintain those 50 miles of single track trail. And we're going to complete our Buckskill Meadow disc golf course. So we have full 18-hole course. It's about 95% complete right now. And there will be a number of historic restoration projects all happening in this calendar year, 2026, that include the Carl Fisher House and Annex in Montauk, the Edwards House on the Duck Creek property in Springs, the 1904 Osborne exterior in Wayne-Scott as a phase 1. Phase 2 will be next. And a Parsons Dodge house in Springs. All restorations having both an engineer and a historian to help the town apply the Secretary of Interior's standards for historic restoration. So those are our goals and accomplishments for 2025-2026 season. Does the board have any questions?
Questions for the board? And just so folks know, Kate was sick today. That's why she was zooming in remotely, and she hit a wall and she's had to go lay down. So she's not going to be with us for the rest of the meeting.
Just clarify. So there's 50 miles of trails that the town maintains.
There's over 100 miles of trails, right. But we can't maintain them all with our small department. So
ones.
Yeah, the ones that are primary trails, we do. In fact, we don't do them just on the town property. We have agreement with Suffolk County. So this property is town, this property is Suffolk County, and this property is town. It seems inconvenient to not be able to maintain them all, and so we actually have an agreement with Suffolk County to maintain those properties too.
Got you. No, the reason I just bring that one up is something I'm working with the Disability Advisory Committee on is, I love having those the trails there, and I personally enjoy them, but I want more people to enjoy them. So, one thing we're looking into is the concept of rough terrain wheelchairs, much like we have the beach access wheelchairs, the possibility of someone being able to reserve a rough terrain. Would you say that those main preserved trails would be suitable for that, or would they need additional work? Would we need to highlight them?
I think you probably have to selectively choose the trails that you would apply that on. And part of the reason is as a single track trail, feet tend to walk in the same spot and the trails have a tendency to rut. So there are plenty of trails that should be wide enough, and I'd be glad to coordinate and work with you on that for sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
No questions. Thank you,
Thank you,
Scott.
Scott. Okay, and now we have John Barley Dunn to talk about agriculture. And Scott's going to stick around. Welcome, Barley.
Put the pressure on. Thank you. Good afternoon. And I'm proud to be part of the environment team. Great team, awesome stuff being done. It's really impressive. So this picture, believe it or not, was taken 2 months ago. It's hard to believe that this is what everything looked like 2 years ago on Fort Palm Bay especially here on what could be the nicest day of the year. So it was a rough winter, but we're through it. Next, please, the mission. So our mission is, our department exists for the purpose of enhancing commercially and ecologically valuable shellfish stocks in local waters, mollusks to be specific. Shellfish are available for harvest by all properly licensed town residents. The department produces large quantities of seed shellfish, oysters, hard clams, and bay scallops, and we disseminate them into local waters, Northwest Creek, 3 Mile Harbor, Accabonac Harbor, Hog Creek, Lake Montauk. And we operate a shellfish hatchery on Fort Palm Bay in Montauk, which is right down the road. I implore folks to come visit. This time of year is the best time to come visit because we're chock full of shellfish. And we have nurseries on and in 3 Mile Harbor in Springs. We have an on-off bottom field grow out system in Napeague Harbor. And some species are also overwintered. Next, please. 2025 accomplishments. 2025 was a pretty good year. Oysters, we seeded 2.2 million at an average size of 60 millimeters, which is a little bit over 2 inches, which is a great size. We sold 2.7 million culls to Long Island oyster farmers, and we seeded an additional 2.1 million culls. So 2 million is basically the number that we can handle, given our gear and our staff and everything. So everything above that, it's a good problem to have too many. That allows us to cull out all those fast growers to get them up to a large size in one season. And anything above that we can sell or we would seed it, but the crabs would just devour it. So we try to give it a good home. Clams, we seeded 6.6 million at an average size of 11.4 millimeters, which is, both of those numbers are great quantity at a great size. And that's really our goal every year. We overwintered about 840,000 in Northwest Creek. And we culled another 10 million. Again, good to have more than we need. We can keep the fast growers and get rid of everything else. And those we do seed because clams will burrow into the bottom. And even though survival is much lower on smaller seed, even if we get 5% of that 10 million, that's still a whole lot of clams. Scallops, not so good. Not terrible, but not as good as we'd like. So we overwintered about 144,000 in Pond of Pines, 50,000 of that which came from Harrison Toby at CCE. He was generous enough to hand over 50,000 extra scallops. The beginning of our scallop season went great. We actually brought 1 million over to the nursery, and then throughout the season, they just died off on us. But we have a potential solution in mind, so we'll keep you posted throughout the year. Oyster gardening going strong with about 120 gardeners in 5 gardens in town and some owned dock areas. We built the town's 4th oyster reef that was in the previous picture. Actually, that was the 3rd reef. The 4th one was in 3 Mile Harbor. So we have 3 reefs in Accabonac Harbor now. They're all doing really well. Growing huge oysters, providing tons of habitat. There's seaweed growing on those reefs. There's crabs and finfish and grass shrimp living in those reefs. And the 4th one was built in 3 Mile Harbor, right across from the end of Boatyard Lane, which is down in Paddle Divas area and a couple of marinas. That one got a little bit beat up by ice because it's one of the shallower ones, so it's kind of exposed at a low tide. And I actually have a picture of about 3-inch blanket of ice sitting on it, so it got a little bit beat up, but it'll survive. It'll come through. We completed about a dozen shellfish dive surveys, which is something we're trying to ramp up just to put numbers on our shellfish survival. We collected about 8 cubic yards of recycled clam and oyster shell. This is a recent initiative driven by the South Fork Sea Farmers, and they actually hired someone by the name of Grace Grimes last year, and she's really ramped things up. We're up to 22 restaurants from Southampton to Montauk, collect all the shell. It comes out to the hatchery. We let it cure for about a year, and then we can use it to build the reefs. So this saves us from buying surf clam shell, or in the past, we've actually bought shell from Billion Oyster Project way out in Governor's Island, but Mickey's Karting, in an amazing bit of generosity, actually sent a truck all the way out there, picked up 16 cubic yard of shell and drove it out for us free of charge.
It's good, man.
Pretty amazing. We're continuing our phytoplankton monitoring and participating in the bivalve hatchery health consortium. We're continuing with our sugar kelp pilot projects, and ironically enough, this winter was one of the best sugar kelp winters we've had, despite all the ice. I thought for sure, ice was covering all those sugar kelp strings, but some of them got dragged around, but they continued to grow under that ice. So we'll probably have well over 100 pounds of sugar kelp come next month when we harvest it. That's a winter crop, for those that don't know, and that'll go in the compost. So a pipe dream of mine, and probably other environmental folks in the room, would be to kind of close the loop on fertilizers on this island. Imagine if we could grow enough seaweed, pull nitrogen and excess nutrients out of our local waterways, use that to fertilize our gardens and lawns instead of trucking the stuff onto the island from off island. That would really help improve water quality immensely. And as usual, camps, schools, community group tours, going strong.
Tours, you go to events and bring your.
And we go to events. Yeah, yep. Largest clam, other galas and events. It's a lot of fun. 2026 goals, continue with all the above, but more scallops, hopefully. We'd really like to get back up into the 200,000 plus range. Further expand our shellfish surveys. We're actually going to work with the Peconic Estuary Partnership, Marissa and Julie and everybody else over there, and Stony Brook Southampton partnering up to really get a whole bunch of these dive surveys done. Maintain our great current staff. We're actually fully staffed, and we're able to get a lot of stuff done. They're all an amazing team. Everybody gets along. We have lunch together, have good conversations. Everybody seems to enjoy the work, and continue to make repairs on our old hatchery building and upgrade our outboard motors. So that picture there is about 5,000 oysters going out to seed. So 5,000 out of over 2 million. Just a drop in the bucket, but a nice pile that's going to go out to seed. That one looks like it's going to Napeague Harbor. And next one, please don't forget to take a look at our annual reports, our seeding maps, and come by and visit. Like I said, the hatchery is right down the road, right by the train station. Nurseries on 3 Mile Harbor and Springs, and we're more than happy to show people around.
So if I recall, Barley, we have monthly department head meetings, and we usually open with an icebreaker question to get everybody warmed up. And one of the questions was, to the department heads, which department head would you want to be? Whose job would you want to have? And you had the most votes. We had more department heads that wanted to be Barley and run the aquaculture program than any other department head. So
everybody wants to be on the water.
How does one join the dive survey team? Just PADI certification, and you're ready?
Yeah.
All right, great. I'd be interested to see that. Look, I think your concept of closing the loop is great. I actually know some local people out here who do that. I see them down there kind of after a big storm, just getting some of that dead seaweed off the beach. And it makes such sense. If we could figure out a way to formalize that, I think it's an excellent idea.
It would be. Kelp fertilizer is on the rise. The kelp industry it's having a rough go.
Yeah.
Because, especially on the food front, but on the fertilizer front, it's kind of a win-win because you don't have to worry about human consumption or anything like that. You just need to get the volume out there.
There's that company, I can't remember who it is, who does kelp pickles. You seen
Yeah.
them? Yeah.
Yeah. They're having a tough time of it, unfortunately. It's not really quite catching on. The novelty seems to wear off a little bit, but.
Are there issues with salt buildup with kelp compost or kelp fertilizer?
Not that I'm aware of. You'd be surprised. I was just talking about, it's going to sound a little wild, but this time of year, the stuff tastes amazing, and it doesn't taste salty at all. It's chewy, kind of a nutty flavor, so it doesn't seem to retain salt, and it can be rinsed easily, but once the dried kelp is only about 10% of its wet weight, and it doesn't, even when you see it dry, it doesn't have that kind of salt encrusted look to it. Doesn't seem to be too salty, but I haven't heard about it being an issue on crops.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Barley, for joining us today.
Everybody.
Okay, so we're going to move on. And we have a presentation by Melissa McCarron and Rachel Titus. Jason, if you could please bring Rachel into the meeting. And we're going to hear about nitrogen smart communities. Which I have to say, while we're getting Rachel in, last Wednesday was I had a East End Supervisors and Mayors Association. We meet every 2 months, and we met in Southold, and the mayor from Quogue, they have already become a nitrogen smart community, and he gave a presentation on it, trying to encourage everyone here on the East End to join in. Great. So I said the timing was perfect because we were having a presentation today.
So I'm Melissa McCarron. I'm a principal environmental analyst with the town's Natural Resources Department. I believe I have Rachel Titus on the Zoom. Rachel is from the Long Island Regional Planning Council, and she's the program coordinator for the Nitrogen Smart Communities. But this is a voluntary pilot program administered by the New York State DEC and Long Island Regional Planning Council, and the town of East Hampton is interested in participating. So Nitrogen Smart Communities program developed through the Long Island Watershed Program. The New York State DEC developed this program that guides water quality improvement activities on Long Island watersheds. This builds off the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan, which is a multi-year effort to make meaningful reductions in nitrogen levels, focusing on reducing nitrogen loading to groundwater and surface waters on Long Island. So the Long Island Watershed Program works in partnership with Nassau and Suffolk counties, local governments, environmental groups, and non-governmental organizations. These programs were developed to protect one of our most precious resources on Long Island, our water. So on Long Island, our safe supply of clean drinking water from our source aquifer, our ecologically healthy bays, harbors, lakes, and creeks is really important for our quality of life here in East Hampton, as well as for approximately 3 million residents of Long Island. Our drinking water comes from groundwater and is a sole source aquifer, meaning that it's the only source of water available to meet our needs. Nitrogen is the leading cause of water quality degradation on Long Island. Excess nitrogen from wastewater, from antiquated septic systems, fertilizer from agriculture, and untreated stormwater runoff are the primary sources of concern. Nitrogen causes many environmental issues. Excess nitrogen in surface water stimulates massive algal growth, which can lead to low oxygen conditions, causing fish kills and degradation of marine habitats. Harmful algal blooms, which cause negative impacts due to algae-produced toxins, have increased in occurrence and intensity from nitrogen pollution over the last several years. Nitrogen contaminates groundwater as well, which is a concern here on Long Island because it is our sole source of drinking water. There's also economic impacts of nitrogen pollution. Long Island hosts approximately 40 million visitors annually, which equates to approximately a $6 billion tourism industry. Poor water quality would reduce the appeal and safety of our beaches, leading to fewer visitors and less local business activity. Contaminated waters can harm fish and shellfishing populations, which would affect our commercial fishing industry, which is really important out in East Hampton and Montauk, particularly. So given a little background on why this program is important, I want to get into a little bit more of what it is. So Nitrogen Smart Communities is currently a pilot program. There are now three participating municipalities on Long Island, so it's pretty new. So town of North Hempstead and town of Smithtown are certified. I think Rachel could speak a little bit more to what level they're at, but it's funded by United States Environmental Protection Agency and the Long Island Sound Partnership. So initially the pilot phase was really targeting municipalities located within the Long Island Sound watershed, which we aren't, but lesson learned from other towns and interests from towns like town of East Hampton, and I think the village of Quogue also expressed interest. They've opened up eligibility to other municipalities, so we're now eligible to participate. So Nitrogen Smart Communities is a voluntary program, promotes local action and awareness to communities to reduce or eliminate nitrogen within municipalities on Long Island. Through participation, communities do the work to better understand the unique sources of nitrogen and commit to reduction activities. So it's a 5-step program. We would submit worksheets to qualify for each level and then earn tiered levels of certification. So step 1, we would adopt the Nitrogen Smart Communities Pledge as a municipal resolution through the town board. I do have a copy of it here ready to go. So if the town board's supportive of this, we can move forward in the next meeting. But it basically is the town would recognize that nitrogen is the leading cause of water quality degradation, that we believe educating and informing the members of the community is an important and essential step in preventing and reducing nitrogen pollution, and that we believe that response through community-specific plans of action is the best way to move forward in reducing nitrogen, and that we have the intention to reduce, eliminate, or prevent nitrogen pollution by adopting the Nitrogen Smart Communities Pledge.
Which we're already teed up to do, so.
Great. And then as part of the next part of step 1 would be to appoint a Nitrogen Smart Communities coordinator as a point of contact, which I believe would probably be myself.
You're volunteering.
So in doing that, step 1, we would be officially registered as part of the Nitrogen Smart Communities program. So next slide. Step 2, we would create an advisory task force, which I believe we could probably couple with the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee, who's very knowledgeable and has very well-rounded group of people that have done a great job with moving forward a lot of our water quality improvement projects in the town already. So I think they would probably be the best to at least base off of. And then we would create an education and outreach plan to get the community involved, supportive, and engaged. So completing steps 1 and 2 would get us the bronze certification.
CPF water quality money be able to be used for this education and outreach?
Yeah, I think projects that are completed. I think we would complete this plan in-house. But yeah, water quality improvement projects would count towards the certification. Next slide. Step 3 would be to create an inventory of nitrogen sources. So identifying local sources helps in creating a plan to reduce those sources from entering our water bodies. Nitrogen from wastewater, fertilizer, atmospheric source, stormwater, and pets would all be included in the inventory. And completing this would get us the silver certification. Step 4 would be to develop a plan, which I think our water quality improvement plan kind of already doubles as this. We might just have to change the formatting and, take another close look at what projects we're promoting. But we're kind of well on our way, I think, to getting to this step. So we would analyze an inventory that we created and set reduction goals and strategies. The advisory task force selects the nitrogen reduction activities to move forward, and then each activity has a point value. Next slide. And then the last step is actually executing the plan, so implementing our water quality improvement projects. So using the plans created in step 4, we would earn at least 5 activity points to qualify for the gold certification. 5 years prior activities can be applied, so some of our completed projects can be used already to get to the gold certification. And then we would recertify biannually to continue progress. So what are the benefits to the community? This would acknowledge the town of East Hampton as a leader on Long Island for clean water, and I think we have been for a long time. This would help invest in economic growth, benefiting tourism and protecting property values. We would have greater engagement with residents and networking with other municipalities. Thanks. For East Hampton, we've already made significant progress through our CPF water quality program. We are a local leader in environmental protection and restoration efforts, and we have been for a long time, so I think this really makes sense for East Hampton. We've already committed to taking action to reduce nitrogen sources in East Hampton. And I think participation would really help us with community outreach and engagement, which I think is something we definitely could improve on. And then the goal would be really to get accredited and maintain gold. So that's all I have. I don't know if Rachel, if you have anything to add or if I missed anything.
No, I don't. That was great. I don't think you missed anything. Maybe I'll just add a little bit as to where the pilot municipalities are right now. The town of Smithtown has really made significant progress. They completed their nitrogen source inventory, which is step 3 of the program, and earned them silver certification. And they are having their next meeting on April 21st, where they'll analyze the inventory and create their implementation plan, which is step 4. So they're well on their way. And then town of North Hempstead has been a little bit slower with their progress. They have just completed step 2, which is the advisory task force. Their first meeting of the advisory task force to come up with a community outreach plan is next week. And Quag is actually pretty much on par with town of North Hempstead, and they actually just joined about 3 weeks ago, which is great. And he's been really helpful in spreading the word, as you mentioned before. We would love to have East Hampton involved in the program. We know how important water quality is to your area and the projects you're already working on. The DEC and the Long Island Regional Planning Council would be there to assist in any way, advise, and help in anything that you guys need as a participant in the program.
And the way I understood it from Mayor Truold is that if you're a municipality that borders the sound, there is actually funding available. But for those municipalities that are not within that designation, there's no monies available. But we have the benefit of the CPF water quality money for projects.
There's actually not funding available. What there is a consultant would be there to assist as a technical advisor. The pilot municipalities we currently have work with Anchor QEA as a consulting firm, and they are helping those communities through the steps of the program. Because it's funded by the Long Island Sound Partnership, that technical advisor would only be able to assist the communities that fall within those boundaries. But as I said, the DEC and the Long Island Regional Planning Council, we can help you and act as technical advisors in lieu of a consulting firm in order to make sure that there's a successful program for everyone.
Okay, great. Board members have questions?
Yeah, I mean, I just go back to that first, the primary source of nitrogen, wastewater. Obviously, we have the septic systems we're putting in. The challenge of centralized wastewater, we've gone back and forth on, and I think it's slowly moving. Fertilizer is, I think, an education piece for me. Mm-hmm. Stormwater runoff is the one that really kind of gets my mind spinning, because you're talking with planning on previous projects. It's very hard to do, and we don't really have anything in our legislation per se to kind of help manage that. We saw it with downtown Montauk when the state came in and they had their stormwater off that road go straight into Fort Pond, and people were up in arms, and I think fairly so, because like we the state's doing that, like individuals need to do it. So I think for me, that's the one from a town perspective. I would really like us to begin to figure out ways to address both from an engineering perspective, which I think we do with bioswales, et cetera. We do a great job with that. But, potentially legislation for larger site plan developments, when there is stormwater, how's it going, how's it get treated? And, I think with changing climate, like those things might need to be more severe.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So could you we have done a number of stormwater runoff projects, and maybe just for everyone's education, Melissa, you could kind of go down the list.
Yeah, trying to remember off the top of my head. We have completed several large stormwater abatement projects. We are right now working on the Westlake boat launch stormwater abatement, and moving forward, today is the next presentation is the 27 Rest Stop stormwater abatement project. We're working on a big project for the Cove Hollow end of pipe treatment, which is a large stormwater pipe conveyance system that goes to Georgia Pond. So that will be next year. We completed the South Lake stormwater abatement project, which was where we installed permeable pavers, and we upgraded the sanitary system there, as well as did a dry stream bed to control and infiltrate stormwater. So we do have a lot of large-scale projects that are ongoing, and we've completed. And I think we'll continue doing that through the CPF water quality program.
We also have our MS4 plan then too. My only question is to making sure that this is something that I would like to see try to move forward, is that your department has enough bandwidth to take this on also. Can you confirm that?
Yeah. I actually have been tracking this program from the beginning, because as soon as the DEC sent out a bulletin on it, I think maybe like 2 years ago, I immediately was like, I want to participate in this. So it's something I really am interested in myself. And I have Samantha Schur in our office that's, she just got promoted to environmental analyst this year, and she's taking on some more responsibility in the next year. So I'm going to have, help from her. And I think we're looking to take on another environmental technician as well to kind of take over some of her responsibilities, and she can help me out with some of these projects.
Thank you.
Great.
Can I just add a little bit to that, Melissa, too?
Sure.
So the step 3 is the nitrogen source inventory, and there's a worksheet associated with that needs to be filled out. But we had hired a different consulting firm, CDM Smith, to provide nitrogen loading data. So we will be providing much of that information, and then the rest you would fill in on your own. So again, we'll be providing assistance and information for that as well.
Just have one question on that, because you kind of mentioned pets in there, like an inventory of pets, which I acknowledge, especially when you kind of look at Gober's report and Fort Pond says that the mammalian thing's there. But I'd also think that deer count maybe should be something that we consider in that too, because that's going to be a huge source as well with our deer.
Yeah, that's all part of the stormwater, addressing stormwater and treating stormwater before it runs off would capture a lot of that.
Great. All right. Well, board members, is everyone supportive of moving forward and doing the resolution to become, okay?
I am. Sure.
Is there a meeting Thursday?
Yeah, there's a meeting
I can put
Thursday,
on-
so if you want to put it on,
Thursday.
I guess it would go to Kate, since she's the
Yes.
liaison
Yep.
to natural resources. All right. Melissa,
great.
thank you,
Yeah.
but don't go anywhere.
I'll stay here.
Because you're going to give us, an update and overview on the Georgia Pond at Route 27 Rest Stop Stormwater Abatement Project. It's a mouthful. And Jason, if you could please let Tom Schaefer from D&B Engineers and Architects into the meeting room. That
Thank
would
you
be
again,
helpful.
Rachel, for your.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Welcome, Tom. I don't think he's in yet. Jason, could you let us know when Tom's in the meeting?
He is in the meeting, but he's not arriving.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Oh, there okay, great. Beautiful. Welcome, Tom.
Hi. Good afternoon, everybody.
Okay. Do you want to tee it up?
Yeah, I have a little intro
Okay,
prepared. So yeah, I'm here with Tom Schaefer from D&B Engineers and Architects. We've been working with Tom and his team for a few years now on this design, but we are here to present the final designs for the 27 Rest Stop Stormwater Abatement Project that's going out to bid this week. So this work has been a collaboration between many different entities, including the town and the Village of East Hampton, New York State Department of Transportation, the Friends of Georgia Pond, which actually brought this project. Oh,
No, I was just going to, Patrick, you can go one more slide. There we go. Oh, thank you.
Yep. Friends of Georgia Pond, who actually brought this project to us, and then the town kind of took this on as a town project, and then also the Peconic Land Trust as a partner. So this site, as Kim said, is the gateway into East Hampton and is immediately adjacent to Talmadge Creek, with direct inputs of stormwater runoff from Montauk Highway into Georgia Pond, which is a priority water body in East Hampton. Town of East Hampton, in partnership with Friends of Georgia Pond, received grant funding from Suffolk County Water Quality Protection and Restoration Program for partial funding for the design of the project initially. And then the town was more recently awarded a $500,000 grant through the New York State Dormitory Authority for the installation of the project. And the remaining funds will be through the Community Preservation Fund. So there's 3 study areas which were incorporated into the design, which Tom will go into a little more in his presentation. But the 27 Rest Stop, owned by the New York State DOT, was a focus, as well as the Georgia Pond Preserve, owned by the Peconic Land Trust, and the road right-of-way along Old Montauk Highway directly to the north of the 27 Rest Stop. So our goal for this site is to make better use of the available space, capture and treat stormwater runoff from the impervious surfaces by promoting infiltration and natural treatment, as well as removal of invasive species and restoration of native habitat. This project will also create a beautiful landscape to improve the water quality of Georgia Pond and provide safe and public access to Talmadge Creek. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tom to go through the design and the more engineering component.
So I don't know, Tom, I think, do you want to share your screen? Is it easier for you to do that?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Why don't you take it down, Patrick, and let Tom share the screen?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Okay, is everyone able to see?
Yes.
Okay.
Looks great.
All right, so there are 3 separate areas that are part of this project. The main area, Area 1, being the Rest Stop area. And then there's also Old Montauk Highway and the adjacent lot right next to the Rest Stop at the Peconic Land Trust. Where we are today, we started out doing our initial scoping and investigations of the site. That was our topographic utility survey, delineating the wetlands, doing our soil borings, our percolation tests. Then we took all that information, developed our stormwater calculations, began coordinating with the stakeholders, as Melissa mentioned, that involved mainly the Friends of Georgia Pond, the Peconic Land Trust, the DOT, and then worked our way through the development of the 30, 60, 90% plans. At this point, the project has received the permitting approvals. That includes the DEC, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Department of State, and DOT. Our goal today is to present it to the town to solicit feedback prior to moving to public bidding. I have a couple photos here. This is the existing Rest Stop area. Photo on the left shows the asphalt parking area. You can see the declining vegetation in the middle photo. And then the last photo on the right, the erosion from the direct runoff from this site going directly into Georgia Pond. This is Old Montauk Highway across the way. Again, another pull-off area, mostly asphalt pavement. There are state-regulated wetlands right adjacent to that. And on the photo all the way to the right, what you have happening now is as the runoff gets to that vegetated area, all the sediments just deposit, and the runoff goes into the regulated wetlands. The last site, some existing photos, is the Peconic Land Trust site right adjacent to the rest stop. Again, limited vegetation, and you see the erosion from the runoff coming right off of Montauk Highway. So very similar issues right here. Okay, there's a lot here on this slide that I'll go through. This is a summary of the proposed improvements. What we are proposing to do essentially is construct a new concrete curb along the southern edge of the parking lot that's going to stop all the stormwater from going directly into the pond. That parking area will be constructed with porous asphalt, which will allow stormwater runoff to permeate through it. And anything that does not permeate through, we're going to have a new stormwater collection system that will divert the runoff to a new below grade stormwater treatment system. So you won't see that. That's going to be below grade. And that will treat the runoff prior to it being discharged into the pond. We also are proposing, similar to the Westlake site, a true grid paver system where you have currently the erosion occurring from the runoff. That will maintain that little access point that's there now, while also fortifying the soils and allowing runoff to permeate through. We're also going to do some beautification of the site. There'll be a new split rail fence going along the site, all new landscaping that I'll pull up in a slide or two. There'll be a new permeable walkway along the site that will lead to a lookout point that's shown on the right. Again, that's a permeable surface that will allow stormwater runoff to permeate through it. On the Peconic Land Trust site, there'll be a new bioretention area. That will accept flow. There'll be a new riprap swale from Old Montauk Highway to divert flow to that bioretention area. And again, there will be an overflow for that into the pond. All that bioretention area is going to be planted with natural native vegetation. On Old Montauk Highway, across the way, very similar improvements, but along the shoulder, there will be a new bioretention area with a split rail fence to prevent cars from pulling into it. And again, there will be another riprap overflow for the anything beyond the design stormwater volume to safely discharge the water from the bioretention area. I'm not going to go through the whole proposed landscaping plan for these sites, but for the entire project, we're proposing a very dense planting schedule, all with native vegetation. Our goal here is to have select species that will establish themselves quickly. And again, having a proposed density to minimize the maintenance that's required and prevent non-native species from encroaching. And that goes for Old Montauk Highway.
Can I just say just a side note on the planting plans? So the plans were developed through Arrayus Design, but they were vetted by our land acquisition department. We have two botanists as well as, or arborists, and then Sarah Davison from Friends of Georgia Capon, or formerly of Friends of Georgia Capon, is a botanist, and they reviewed all these plans for the species appropriateness for the site.
Thanks, Melissa. Yep.
Go ahead.
All right. So the anticipated maintenance, we know this is a big issue. So the first 5 years are covered by the construction bid. So when this project goes out to bid, as part of that bid, the selected contractor will be required to maintain the site for a period of 5 years. We anticipate these native plantings to be self-sustaining by the beginning of around year 3. So the 5-year period is more than enough time for these plantings to become fully established. Following that 5-year period, part of the site is owned by DOT and part of the site is owned by the town. So following the 5-year period, the DOT will be responsible for maintaining the site within their right-of-way, and the town will be responsible for maintaining mainly the stormwater collection system with the stormwater treatment unit, which we anticipate having to be cleaned out twice a year. Maybe prior to a major storm event. Additionally, the bioretention area on the Peconic Land Trust site will be their responsibility to maintain following the five-year period. As Melissa mentioned earlier, the project is funded through DASNY with a $500,000 grant. That final contract is currently pending. The remaining funding is anticipated to come from the Town of East Hampton Community Preservation and Water Quality Fund, which is a 50-50 match. In terms of next steps, we have this presentation today where we're hoping to solicit feedback that we can incorporate into the designs. Once that's done, we hope to bid this by next month so that the project can be awarded this summer, with the understanding that construction can't start until the fall after Columbus Day. Obviously, this is a major thoroughfare here. It's the gateway to the town. We don't want any construction going on during the peak summer period, but awarding it over the summer will provide the contractor time with getting in their submittals, ordering materials, things like that. And we anticipate that construction will be completed by spring of 27 next spring, once it's warm enough for all the plantings to go in. And that's the proposed project.
So Jeannie Carrozza was here, obviously, to start the meeting on bids. This is actually going out on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And it'll be out for a month.
Okay.
So we should be able to award by, the end of May.
Okay, great.
Correct.
Questions?
Well, just to add on to it. So, yes, it is going out to bid, but we wanted to make sure the town board saw what the final bid product or engineered design was. There were multiple meetings with all the stakeholders over the last 4 or 5 years on this, that we've been tracking it. But when there's so many different municipalities involved in it, you have to make sure you get the right product on here then too. There were a couple keystones onto this that unlocked some of this. I think one of the ones that goes back to the work that the supervisors had with Assemblyman Thiel and now Schiavone, who's been in constant contact about this project also and the funding there. It was a great keystone of it. The next one was working with for the acquisition of the property that's on the corner of the old Sapori Demar. Very good. Very good.
Every year was a different restaurant.
Road.
Someone else got one? I don't know. But so that'll what?
Saracen? Yeah, Saracen, briefly, right? Yeah.
All right. Third time, anyone else? No, whatever that restaurant, name that restaurant. So what it was is that allows for some of the, the water runoff to be encapsulated and captured there. I thank everyone from the design team for the sensitivity to the long-term maintenance, which has always been an issue that I always have brought up then too. So that's either in the type of asphalt, the planting schedule, or the vegetation maintenance schedule on there. Two things I just want to concern with is the history of this. Sometimes you say, why do we even need a rest stop there? That is state law. You need a rest stop by every certain distance within state highways on there, and this is within state law, so you just can't get rid of it on there. And the next one on there is that there is a 1935 education historical sign that's there. And I know I mentioned this in the past. We'll work with Steve Lynch to get that taken down and reinstalled and painted again. It tells a lot about the history of New York and East Hampton on there then too. But overall, the project is pretty sound where it's come from. But we want to make sure that everyone had their eyes on it once again, because when you discuss it for so many times and all of a sudden you're here, we don't want people to think we're rushing.
Yeah.
This is not a rush.
We don't want it to be a surprise.
Yeah, we want to make sure everyone's aware of it going forward. Also, lastly, the state's already taken some action on this project. As you can see in the the right here, you'll see an old gray guardrail. The state came through the town of East Hampton and replaced all their guardrails. And in this area, because it's a scenic area, they actually put in a lot like what was in Shadmore out here, the wooden guardrails, steel-backed wooden guardrails. So that was a part of the coordination efforts of multiple large projects, millions of dollars of projects together to get what's right here. Anyway, that's what I have for the board, so thank you.
Just one question for you both. What sort of rainfall event is this designed for? Like, what's the kind of maximum flow it can assume to take?
Is it 1.5 inches?
You can take that. So all the water quality treatment is designed to treat the 90% rainfall event, but the overflows are all designed for the 10-year storm event.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what, 10 inches or 11?
The 10-year storm event in this area, no, I think it might be 9 inches. I'd have to verify that, but.
Okay. Any other questions for Tom or Melissa?
No, thank you both.
Yeah.
Yeah, great project.
Thank you.
Forward to
Thank you
getting
very
this
much.
out to bid.
Thank you, Tom, for taking the time.
Okay, and now we have our last topic, which is an after-hearing discussion. We had a public hearing on Chapter 91, vehicles on Gin Beach. I believe Chelsea was going to come in to put the map up. So is Chelsea in the waiting room by chance? Jason?
She is.
Good, great. Beautiful. David, do you want to lead us?
Sure. So this game has a request from the Senior Harbor Master, Tim Treadwell, about trying to increase public safety in this area, Gin Beach, as there was an area in town's code, Chapter 91, beaches and parks, that wasn't consistent with many other portions of it. So the amendment to here would be the town-owned portion of Gin Beach, which is in this location here, to make it seasonal, which would be Memorial Day to September 15th of each year between hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. And the reason why because this is an active beach that is actually a lifeguarded beach. What you will notice on the right side here is the right side there, that is a traditional sand fence that gets in place there, because that is the dividing line between the state park beach, which is heavily used with overland vehicles, and the town lands that are to the west on here also. If you look at other areas of the town code where we have other beaches that are lifeguarded beaches, such as Maidstone Park, from Flaggy Hole and Gallatin to Indian Wells and Atlantic Avenue Beach, and actually everything from Shadmore to, I believe, Hither Hill State Park, the same seasonal aspect is here. To me, I look at this as a desire to increase public safety as we're drawing individuals there with comfort stations, lifeguarded beaches and such, and not as a loss of public access, because public access will be maintained there, and vehicular access can be there in a reasonable hours after the invited general public is there at a lifeguarded beach that is actually permitted by Suffolk County. As you all know, I'm a defender of public access to the beach, and I love driving my truck on the beach, but in so much ways it makes sense to protect the individuals that come to guarded, safe beaches in this area then too. So I do support the request, and I do support the legislation.
Look, I overall support this. There's one caveat that's been raised to me that I do think was worth discussion. Goes back again to ADA. I've talked about this with Kim and Natural Resources, the idea of actually getting an access map put in here so wheelchairs can kind of get down to the beach. That's not possible with the dune structures. So by removing car access, without that possibility of having the ramp in there, the mats in there, does concern me a little bit. I would love to go back and revisit if there's a possibility of getting a narrow mat, just something so we continue to ensure that beach is accessible to everybody.
Okay. Ian?
Yeah, I'm supportive. Well, first of all, I want to thank the people who reached out, who came to the work session, and who wrote letters. I think, as Dave said, this is not an attempt to restrict beach access generally. I think that, I'm certainly supportive. Dave said he was. I think the board overall is supportive of beach access, for individuals and vehicles. But at all of our other lifeguarded beaches, we have these seasonal restrictions in place for public safety. So I'm supportive of this measure, and again, I appreciate the comments that came in. The points are all noted that fishing and beach access is very, very important. But in this small parcel of land on a lifeguarded beach, there just is no real need. And by the way, I've heard from other people who also use this beach and value driving on the beach who have been supportive of this measure. So I am too.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I mean, what Chief Harbor Master Tim Treadwell had said is that, this beach is used by a lot of families with small kids. They're not ready to take them to the ocean yet. And, we want to protect public safety. So I am supportive as well. So that wraps up all of our topics for today. So now we are on to liaison reports. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Last night, the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee met, range of discussions, but really wants just to kind of bring up, you may have seen the press, but, Cranberry Hill Road Bridge, MTA continues to, I'm going to say, drag their feet on this one. We've been hoping the contract would be awarded in Q1. The latest update for the public is that that's going to be a Q3, Q4 delivery with construction hoping to start now in 2027. But we will keep in contact with the MTA and Albany just to kind of ensure that moves forward. Other discussion was around the community center concept. I think, again, some pros, some cons about it, but, just people wanting to hear a little bit more about where we're going with that. Fire Marshal Office, again, just want to remind people that we'll be having a work session on the 5th with regard to Knox boxes. Just for commercial operators, I think it's very helpful if you kind of tune into that. We'll put some stuff hopefully on the Fire Marshal's page too as to what your requirements are of your commercial property owner to have a Knox box on your property. Sanitation, just a reminder for people, it's April. Please get your permits. I have to say, going up to both the recycling centers, that there is an issue with a lot of people coming in without any stickers whatsoever, not even last year's sticker. That is part of the reason we're looking to go to the license plate reader system. I wanted to kind of at some point hold a work session on that, what that project might look like and how it was going to operate, and just give some public education as to why we're doing it as well. East End Fire Chiefs, we have a meeting this evening at 7 p.m. at Springs Fire Department. Arts Council, we have the community networking event this Friday, April 17th, 6 p.m. at Town Hall. And that is everything for the moment.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tom. David?
The Nature Preserve Committee met last Thursday, but unfortunately I was able to attend as I was with family down south. I'll get some more information to you to the next meeting on there then too. The town of East Hampton, collaborating with the Montauk Chamber of Commerce, will be holding our annual pre-season event, which is bringing our enforcement agencies and planning departments together with community members and business members to answer their questions in advance of the season. This will be happening on May 7th between 1 and 3 o'clock here in the Suzanne Gosman room.
Can I piggyback on that?
Please do.
Because we've also been asked for the same request from the East Hampton Chamber of Commerce, and that is Wednesday, April 29th at 3 p.m. at Town Hall.
Great. Yeah, I think that's valid for the community on there, and it opens up that form of discussion and availability. Couple updates on projects. The Army Corps Sandpath project, they're continuing to mobilize on that and remove and plant the sand, plant the grass. The town lifeguards, and then Steve O'Brien's crews are actually assisting with with not replacing, but adding another layer of sand fencing along the entire ocean front in Montauk right now. We have the sand fencing there. The sand fencing that was there from the FIT project a couple years back is now, if it's a 4-foot fence, it's now only 18 inches. So we're going to make sure all the fencing comes up to keep bolstering that dune and make sure individuals stay out of the area. Also, at Stephen Hand's Path, we are getting prepared for the installation of paving of some of the new parking areas that we have. So that is still ongoing. I hope to have that complete in the next couple of weeks. That leaves me into paving. We are into our spring, as the supervisor mentioned last week, with the war on potholes. Part of that is actually milling and paving of our roads. We are the highway department is milling and paving the roads in the area of Springs right now. So please be aware that listen to the flaggers, watch the signs. Please brake for construction workers, that some individuals this morning have not been. And please note that you have to stay off of the asphalt as individuals are there, so this asphalt can set up and settle. So that's an ongoing project then too. I want to let everyone know that the town board will be moving forward on restoration effort of the ditch dune, the engineered dune that was installed this past winter, and portions of it has slumped off. We will be moving on the contractor getting the sand out of the parking lots, also reinstalling sand as needed in that location, and that should be happening before Memorial Day. It's a tight schedule, but the contractor is alerted and aware, so we're going to be moving on that then too. I got a little bit of a unique one here. Sorry. No worries. I'm actually very happy about this and looking forward to when this comes up on Thursday, but taking comments on it as needed then too. We were talking about recreational value in the town of East Hampton, and also about purchases that can be CPF purchases that can be defined for multiple different factors, either for open space, recreation, and water quality. There's an area in Shepherd's Neck at 134 Second House Road in which the town has recently purchased, actually about 15 years ago. I think you were on the board at the time. You helped close to it was for the Fort Pond House, and then also a property that is just to the west. Overall, what I'm trying to say is the town is actually going to be locking up now very shortly 134 Second House Road, which is the Pathfinder Day Camp on there. And we're going to be using that for long-term recreational needs in the town of East Hampton, water quality needs also, and trying to provide all those opportunities in the use of the Community Preservation Fund. But what it has now is put 3 large tracts of land together under town ownership for values of water quality, stormwater, but also providing recreation for the town of East Hampton and its residents on there. Future discussions to come on that, but we'll be noticing that for public hearing on Thursday.
It's great news. I mean, I can't tell you, what could have happened there. You would have just seen another, I hate to use the term, mega mansion, to preserve that as a recreational facility and ensure that, the future youth of Montauk, not just youth, seniors, adults too, can use that, I think is such a win for this hamlet. Yeah. So thank you to all the board members for helping get that through.
And thank you to the ownership there. Also, I think there's surprisingly how many times I hear, people of our age, 50, a little bit younger, saying, I went there, or I was a counselor, or kids go there. And there's so many reasons why, because it's a wonderful camp. And I think there's ways that the town could continue to work on that also. We don't know yet. That's all to be discussed. But it could, the camp itself could be going on in different formats. That's all to be discussed.
Yeah, I mean, we could theoretically go out, we're looking to go out for an RFP for someone to run the camp, right? So, and manage that property for us, like we've done with the tennis club out here and other properties. So, so that it stays a summer camp in a recreational facility, in perpetuity.
Correct, and that's what I have.
Beautiful. Thanks, David. Ian?
Yeah, I'll start by giving a shout out to our town clerk, Michael Hansen. He has made resident parking permits available online now. This is obviously a year where everybody needs to renew their beach parking permits. Having everybody do that every 5 years is a big I'd say burden for the town clerk, a lot of people coming through. And so you can now, through a secure encrypted form, submit all your documents for resident parking permits only, the ones that don't cost you money. You can submit all that information online through the town clerk's portion of the website and then pick up your permit. So thank you, Michael, for that.
That's the best, even better than Pathfinder to me. In a way, as much as I love recreation, because that is something that was promised by yourself and the board as far as the modernization of the department on there, and options and availability, and it's a major convenience, particularly in this fifth, the year ending of the 5 and the beginning with the 6 here. So well done.
Recycling permits next, Michael?
So thank you for that. Again, everybody could find that information online and save yourself a wait in the line. Community Housing Advisory Board will meet next Wednesday at 5 p.m. at 300 Panago Place in the Planning Department's conference room, the same building as the building department. I don't know the agenda yet, but again, that's open to the public as always. We had an ag advisory meeting last Thursday. They looked at the accessory staff housing that's been talked about by the board. It was the first time looking at that, and they were supportive. So look forward to that, continuing to track, hopefully towards adoption. They also did mention the Osborne management plan because that's been receiving so much press. They did have some concern about the tone of the conversation around agriculture. And as I've stated, I think there's an opinion that, agriculture doesn't inherently need to be thought of as, aesthetically displeasing or even necessarily environmentally harmful. And so they asked that I updated them. I gave them an update on the conversation to date. I'll also I wasn't planning on talking about that, but since we had several callers who did, I want to address some of those comments. I think we have a problem here of the framing of what the management plan is doing or the framing of the conversation. I don't view this as a vote either for a Vista or environmental health or water quality or against it. I just don't see that as the case. I think what we disagree upon is the details of the management plan, and that's it. I think that the intentions, as I stated previously, are the same. I think that as long as I'm on this board, the type of licensee that I would vote to be there, I think is going to be consistent with what, the vast majority of the public comments have asked for. I also want to talk a little bit about the process because that came up here as well. And one thing that's very important to me is a transparent and open process. And from the very start of that conversation, and frankly, almost any other that I've had in town, I made it explicitly open to the public. I think all of the callers, except for maybe one, I have attended property management committee meetings, have met with me privately in my office or elsewhere. And I made it very clear from the start that we wanted their input, and their input was heard. That was heard from the beginning, and I think went into the original crafting of the management plan that was supported by the Property Management Committee. And also, I very much respect the Property Management Committee and the ability for them to do their work independently from me. So much so that the first draft that came to this board was not one that I supported word for word, but it was important to me that the draft that they sponsored was what this board saw. I'm never going to tell an advisory committee what to tell me to say so that I have more backing for what I want to do as a board member. And that is just factually true, and I think that many of the callers have sort of seen that process play out. After the original conversation as a board, a draft went, Scott Wilson helped revise the draft based on all of the public comments, and that went back to the Property Management Committee, and they were supportive. That draft strengthened the mission statement, put a further emphasis on the importance of the view shed, and strengthened the water quality language. There was a little bit of language removed concerning farming, but the goals that everybody is most concerned about here, water quality and Vista, language was actually strengthened. And actually, I want to read the mission, which is one of the most important parts of that document that we actually got. I think it was directly from the Wayne Scott Heritage Project. They, frankly, had a better mission statement that I think captured, and that's the point of the process. And so what it says is the John Osborne Homestead celebrates the legacy of the Osborne family throughout preservation and interpretation of their historic Wayne Scott farmhouse, garage and residence, playhouse, and homestead grounds, which represent the 19th century rural and farming character of Wayne Scott. In addition to the protections and stewardship of the historic structures, this acquisition recognizes the exceptional historic and ongoing scenic value of the site, and the perpetual protection of the scenic viewsheds across the parcel is paramount. Again, that was significantly stronger language than before, and I think it's important. The Property Management Committee liked the amendments and sent it back to the board, which we discussed recently. Now, it is true that a couple of individual members from that the Property Management Committee have reached out to me since and still have concerns about, I think based on the framing of this conversation, that there's some language in this management plan that is encouraging agriculture in a way that's going to compromise the ponds and the view shed. And I just don't think that that's the case. Now, we can disagree on that, but it is, the process is so important to me, and I would hope that so many of the callers have been involved on this that I think it's unfortunate that we get to the point that that some board members, and I assume that I'm one of them, is being framed as being stubborn or recalcitrant, or I'm not sure what the word was. I just don't think that's the case. I think what we have here is a disagreement about what the management plan should say. We're not disagreeing on facts. We're not ignoring facts. It was pointed out that the supervisor sort of went through line by line, and I appreciate that the supervisor does this. We need clarity on votes from this board so that it's clear how we feel. And by the time we got to that point, all of the information was on the table from the previous week. It wasn't the first time we heard those words. So the fact that, I personally voted for the language as is was not ignoring some new information. That information had been contemplated, discussed at length, and we just happened to disagree. And as Dave Lees pointed out, that's okay. I hope that we can separate the process from the results and not frame things, if somebody doesn't agree with you, that somehow there were ill intentions or some negative thing. And I think it's unfortunate that I felt that from some of the callers. I also just want to say specifically, look, I am a farmer in addition to being a town board member. That's a fact about my life. And so I want to talk about a couple of the farming issues. One of the callers mentioned organic agriculture. I'm a big advocate for organic agriculture. I use organic practices on my own farm. But it's not true that organic agriculture in every instance is actually more environmentally friendly than some other type of agriculture. It just isn't factually true. I also wanted another word that was used was low impact. What does that mean? That is not defined in our code, low impact agriculture. And I worry that you put words down like that are amorphous and don't have true definition, and a board many years down the road might misinterpret that. And I also worry, as I said before, that this is precedent-setting language, that if we would have low impact agriculture on this agricultural parcel, why not always have low impact? Is low impact not always better than more impact? So those are some of the details. All of that said, I'll say again, which I've said repeatedly, I think I agree with the callers and the vast majority of the public on the ultimate outcome here. I just believe that with the mission statement I read, with the strong water quality language that exists in there, that any board, this board or any future board who is choosing a licensee, if they're considering this management plan, they would not choose a form of agriculture that's going to ruin the vista or the water quality. And so I just, again, this is a differences of opinion. That's it. And I welcome anybody to reach out about the process, but that's the way that this went down. And so I just wanted to address that because I think it's unfortunate that just because we disagree that I think the tone of this conversation has taken a negative turn.
Can I just make one other point in just to clarify too? I mean, look, when we make these decisions, we read the studies. We read Dr. Gober's study on what's driving the water quality impact in that water body. It's not farming. It's the residents around it. It's sediment buildup. I fully understand people's concern that they want to get that water body back to the quality it needs to be. The town wants to partner in doing that. Historical landmarking of properties is exceptionally challenging in terms of what you can and cannot do. I think from my perspective overall, limiting the future possibility of farming on that property is short-sighted. And that's what really drove my decision here, is that we don't know what the future needs of this community will be. The way the world's going, we might have to be farming more of our land. And, being able to do that is not something we should restrict for future generations. The vista is incredibly important to everybody. That is why we spent $56 million. If you go through the CPF presentation given by Scott today, it dwarfs what was spent in other hamlets. And that was done for the vista. It was done for the preservation of that vista. That is primary. We have CPF properties where we have considered, farming applications but we haven't taken them up, and those still remain as open fallow fields. If nothing comes up that is, we deem suitable as a board, it's not something we're going to pursue. And to Ian's point, like, there is nothing that can be pursued agriculturally that's going to impact that water body. So I agree. I think, the comments that came in today, some of them were completely inappropriate. And some of them I thought were, they're taking a tone which I personally don't approve of from the public or from the town. So I shall leave it at that.
If I could just make one comment, though, management plans can be amended, because Scott mentioned in his presentation, we amended the Wayne-Scott Green management plan. This board has mentioned, I believe it was this board that revised the Duck Creek Farm. So it's not something that's, once it's decided on, it's in perpetuity. It's something that can be, with a public hearing and a vote of the board, can be changed. I do know that this was a topic that came up at the Wayne-Scott CAC. Kate's not here to express what was discussed at the Wayne-Scott CAC. So if you would take into consideration maybe not noticing this for adoption on the 16th, let Kate give her liaison report on the 21st. And then if you want to schedule it for adoption, wait till the May 7th is a request that I would make. Is there anything else, Ian, that you needed to?
That's
okay.
it.
So I'm going to go on with my liaison report. So I'm trying to think of the last meeting we what was it? I'm losing track of dates. The first meeting in April, Jake presented the draft local law for the public safety and accountability. Tom, you had one comment you wanted to add.
Yes.
I'm just going to hand this out. And then I took it to the Latino Advisory Committee meeting on Saturday morning, and they had one comment. They were both to the same section. It's section 211-5 on page 3. Tom, you had asked that the section where the supervisor is notified by the police department, and then I need to notify the town board. You had asked that be done within 24 hours. So that's incorporated in here. And then the Latino Advisory, bless you, the Latino Advisory Committee wanted, we got into a conversation about if there is an action where ICE comes into our community and they remove someone without a judicial warrant, how would the folks, their relatives, their friends, know that happened? And what came into the discussion was that if the police are called to a scene, they are going to file an incident report. That's just a given. So, and they would do, they would get some details when they were filling out that incident report, maybe who was taken, their name, their address, any kind of information that could be garnered. So this affected section A, so that it says this got broken out into points 1 and 2. So where town police officers respond to an incident involving a federal agency conducting an immigration enforcement operation in the town police department shall, 1, document the incident consistent with the department's rules and procedures, because it's something that they're doing anyway. So we're just putting that in here. And then 2, notify said incident to the town supervisor.
Just us maybe that also has a time frame on it too, a 24-hour time frame that they tell you within 24 hours of it taking place.
Okay. Okay, we can do that. So if board members are good with the revised, the tweaking that we've done here, I would like to notice this for public hearing on Thursday, to be heard on May 7th.
I'm fine with it.
I'm supportive.
Yeah.
Great. And I know the Latino Advisory Committee will be very happy. One of the other topics we discussed at their meeting is one of the members actually works for Cornell Cooperative Extension. They have parental workshops in Spanish. It's something that the Latino Advisory Committee wants to sponsor with the town. And we said, with the timing and everything, people are getting geared up for the season. It's something we would do in the fall for the next school year. And then we also had a conversation, we want to create Spanish language videos, and we kind of talked about what some of the subjects would be. I know when Police Officer Munoz goes to the Route to 27 meetings, we've gone a couple of times together. One of the first things we try to do is try to explain that folks can trust the police, because there's just, you see a uniform, there's a lot of apprehension with what's going on in the world. So we have Spanish-speaking officers. We've volunteered all of them to be in these videos, and Patrick is going to be shooting them. And the Latino Advisory Committee has formed a subcommittee, and they're putting together talking points. And so that's something that's going to be moving forward rather quickly. We also talked about e-bikes. I know, David, you talked about that a lot in your Montauk CAC. We talk about it at the East Hampton CAC. And we're seeing now, with the weather getting warmer, a lot of folks, for some folks, it's their main source of transportation. The PD has been doing a lot of outreach to schools and churches, and we want to expand that. So we want to do that. Those videos in English and Spanish.
Quickly on that, there is a meeting this Friday, a Zoom meeting with PD and community members who have just outreached to me just to discuss, what those laws are and what the town's role in editing.
If you could send me the link to that, and if I'm available, I'd like to join that. And then also part of what Officer Munoz does when he goes to Route to 27 and talks with Latino community members is what to do at a traffic stop. I mean, everybody should know. You put your light on, you put your hands on the wheel, you automatically go to your glove box to get your information. Police officers see you doing that. They don't necessarily know exactly what you're doing, particularly if it's a late night stop, it's dark out. So, I think everybody could learn from that. It just makes it safer for everyone. So those are the kinds of topics we're going to be doing, and I'm sure it will evolve. East Hampton Sag Harbor CAC met last week, and we talk a lot about e-bikes because we actually, because of the North Main Street corridor, and the grocery store and the markets there, we find, and the traffic that backs up at that intersection with Collins and Cedar Street, North Main Street, we see folks riding their e-bikes on the sidewalk, and you've got families with little kids coming out of grocery stores and markets, and it's an accident waiting to happen. So we are going to resume, or the police department's going to resume their foot patrols on North Main Street, educating folks on e-bikes. We're hopefully going to get signs up in English and Spanish in some of those storefronts there. Tom mentioned that we're going to have a discussion about knock boxes on Tuesday, May 5th. It's actually, most of the topics are going to be around public safety. We're also going to have the chief give the 2025 annual report for the police department, and we're going to hear from our public safety department heads, Marine Patrol, Fire Marshal, and Ordnance Enforcement and Animal Control. Because particularly now, the season is almost upon us, and we just want to remind folks about, how we can all keep each other safe. There's also, because there is a law that you can't ride on the sidewalks, I know our town attorney, Jake Turner, has been working with Lieutenant Alversa. We've got copy now for, referencing the chapter in the code. Our sign shop is making up signs, so we're going to be posting those around so folks know what the law is. And we've also put a piece in the spring newsletter, which is going to be out later this month, to just the do's and don'ts of e-bikes. So we just want to continue that education and outreach. The couple of other topics that came up at the CAC was, we've gone to carry in, carry out at Sammy's Beach, and unfortunately some folks, what they're doing is they're just leaving their trash where the garbage can used to be. So I don't know if we have signage up there, carry in, carry out. We do. Okay. Because I haven't been up there this season. So
I think we even put up where the code is illegal to leave your poop litter bags.
That's exactly what they're leaving behind.
They're leaving piles of poop litter bags. It's disgusting, and it's illegal. What else you wanted to say about it?
Yeah.
So sorry. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
no,
just
absolutely.
disheartening.
We also at the meeting went through, because on March 17th work session, we had, all of our topics were around affordable housing. We discussed, that meeting, and they're supportive of our, recent efforts for affordable housing, including the ADU construction loan. What they believe that it should be for full-time residents with an income restriction. And I know, Ian, we talked about that. We got something. We need to bring that back and figure out what that income restriction is. And then, okay, I'll put that down. And then for next week, we're going to hear from a number of our department heads, from the airport, buildings and grounds, information technology, and human resources. We are going to have a very lengthy presentation on April 21st, and that's going to be the 2021 to 2025 airport operations and complaints analysis. This is something we had done in prior years when I was liaison to the airport back in 2014 to 2017. We haven't done an analysis since before COVID, and we're due, something the Wainscott CAC also encouraged us to do. So that's an hour presentation. Just want folks to be prepared. I've already gone through the presentation preliminarily, and it will take a solid hour. And then Tom, I know you wanted to have the Wildlife Committee come back. We can fit that into that meeting. It's just, it'll be a
That's May
3-hour
12th?
lead meeting like most of our meetings
Sorry,
are.
that's May 12th or May 5th, we're saying?
April 21st, the
April
original
21st?
date you asked for.
Okay, all right, got you. All right.
Okay. And that's what I have for my liaison report. So now we only have a handful of resolutions.
You know what, I just because we'd previously pushed it, if we could actually push that to a May work session.
Okay.
May 12th, that just because the
Do it here?
committee, they kind of, we've got stuff we still need to review. Just-
Okay, so you want to do that May 12th?
Yeah.
In Montauk.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So David, you have the first resolution.
I have one, sorry.
Oh.
I
yes,
have
you do.
resolution 2026-626. It's a budget modification for sanitation department. We're moving $1,000 from New York State DC payments to travel, conferences, and dues.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's my privilege to offer Resolution 2026-627. This is the approval of special events for May 2026. One is the ARF Pet Celebration Day, 5/2/26 from 11 to 1. The next is Montauk Youth Mother's Day 5K, starting in the Montauk Green, and this is Sunday, 5/10/26, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And the next one is the Montauk Friends of Erin, the Montauk Music Festival, multiple days and times as stated below.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 628 is to release security for URP 6116B and SP-2-2.
Second.
Amount of $24,000, sorry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 629, this is to refund a permit fee for a recycling permit in the amount of $130.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 2026-630, and this is to amend Resolution 2026-525 to revise the total bid amount for EH 26-012. And this was for Glock handguns and associated items for the police department. The financial impact is $137,112.50.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for contracts, litigation, and personnel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Jason at LTV.
Thank you, and you are now off the air.
Okay, great.